All right. We are live in our secluded bunkers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to GROGTALK. I'm James.
I'm Dan.
And Dan is in the remote lair, but together, where are we?
We are Pezunia in the abyss.
In the abyss, that's right. Hey, so we've got a bunch of folks on. Just make sure our sound is okay. For those who are following me on Twitter, you know that the virus not only has taken our lives and our freedom, but they took my hard drive. So I had to rebuild the computer and get everything in. Okay, good. Thank you, sir. The angry monk has said we're okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Oh, it looks even better. Oh, well, that's wonderful. So we should be socially distancing from now on. So go ahead.
Well, James, you're in the center now.
Yes,
you're usually off to the side.
I got all this room now. It's all just great. It's all mine again. So
because I take up so much room.
That's right. Well, we want to be close, but those days are gone. They're like, what a difference 2 weeks makes. We were drinking beer here. We were talking to Dave. Things were going well. Yes, I do have a left arm. They're all commenting that I haven't lost, which, by the way, we'll talk about in Dragon 35, talking about spellcasting in two arms as well. So,
I'm glad you mentioned that. Oh, I think she and Wells got in trouble with Gary for that one.
Oh, really? Okay, good. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I think he had an issue with that one.
Oh, really? Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So, and then later at the break, we will be bringing on the Scourge and the Immolator to talk about the book that shall not be named. This is what this is like the shark episode. We may not have a show after this because once you've gone over this, you're very good. I love it. That's very good.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wait, did you show the name? Did you show the name?
No, I'll do this. Sorry.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
You can edit it out later.
That's right. It shall not be named.
Or shown.
Hold on. Someone just defacing the book. What is that? Oh, okay, great. Someone's just alerting me. Did you hear that beeping, or did it go through your headset?
No.
Okay, excellent. All right. So we're gonna get going. We have a lot of folks online. So hello to everyone. Menyon is on. Cyber Heston is on. So welcome to all, and of course the Scourge is on. So we're hoping, if we're all still alive, GrogCon. I mean, this is almost like Forrest Gump and Bubba on the ship. We may be the last con left in October. You know, all the other ones, Gary Con was supposed to be, right? That was last week? Yep. That didn't happen.
That's our new slogan, isn't it? Because you have no other choice.
That's what we've heard. People on Twitter are like, hey, we noticed your 4 hours on YouTube is not the same as the 2 hours on the podcast. I'm like, well, that's a lot. They're like, we need as much content. We're under house arrest. I said, wow. So we are better than prison. That's basically it.
Well, no, the supply and demand is completely changing now, because now we're going to be like, people are going to be like, can we come to GrogCon? We'll be like, we'll think about it.
That's right.
Maybe.
We'll think about it.
We were begging. Now we've got the power.
We do have the power. You're exactly right. Now they're debating. This is the only bad thing. I'll have to fix for you so you can see the comments, because they're all GrogCon, better than prison. Exactly. That's going to be the name of it. Slightly better, and now they're debating between Orcus and Jubilix. So that's...
Oh, look, hold on.
That's right.
Can I show off my shirt here?
You can, absolutely.
What do you think of that?
That's
Can
beautiful.
you read that?
Absolutely, yeah. What would Jubilix do?
Right.
I was wondering if we could get little wristbands, like they used to do.
Yes.
When in doubt, what would the Lord of Slimes, the faceless one, want from that?
Do you know what? It's very strange when your wife says, "What does that shirt mean?" And I'm like a 50-year-old man saying, "Well, this is the demon lord of slimes and jellies." It just doesn't seem very adult-like.
No, and that's when she turns and walks away.
She's like, "I married this guy. I married a guy who's wearing a T-shirt that's paying homage to the demon lord of slimes, jellies, and oozes.
That's right. The
And
faceless
puddings.
one.
Puddings too. Does he have pudding? He's got puddings, right?
Yes, he does have puddings.
Okay. Is there yeah, there's a ochre jelly. What are they?
Right.
They're jellies,
Slimes.
puddings,
Yeah.
slimes, and did I say oozes already?
Yeah. No, you
Oozes,
didn't
slime.
say oozes. Yeah.
Oozes, slimes, jellies, puddings. Are there 4?
I think of the ones he has his retinue. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that could be a good question for when we do a grog certification. Name
Yes.
all the 1 to 4 slimes, 2 to 4 jellies, 1 to 4 oozes, 1 to 4 black puddings.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's a good thing. They want to know where you got your shirt from. Did you just get it custom made?
Yes. It's hard to believe that there's not a real market for Jubilex paraphernalia. I'm not. Hey, listen. I've worked hard in my life. I've reached the age where, like, look, I'm going to spend my money on what I want to spend my money on, and if I want to make a You know what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a cut and paste job of Jubilex's drawing.
Right.
But I felt bad. Well, that'd be copyright. I didn't do it because I felt that'd be, I felt that'd be copyright. I'm the guy I'm actually complying with the stay-home order. You're not under a stay-home order, right? I am.
That's right. We cherish our freedom above our lives here in the county that I live in. So.
Right. You're libertarians.
Oh, is that the grog line?
You heard that? That's so far away.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. So no, I made this shirt. So I didn't make it. I didn't go to Michael's. But I just, these companies, you just type in whatever you want,
well,
they'll send it to you.
I think there's a market out there. We need to come up with GROGTALK merchandise. I think we're at that point. So this will be one of the shirts we put on.
Jubilex too.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And well, people want the bracelet. I'm sure they want Go Delicious, the goat, and I'm sure there's a bunch of things. We'll have to talk about that later. Anyway, I know we have like 18 hours to fill today, but let's keep moving on here. The Grognards Guild online, Brian, he's doing well. I don't know if they had a game yesterday. I think he's having a one shot this Sunday at 1 o'clock. If people are interested, they can go out to the meetup or go out to Skype and or just send me a note and I'll be happy to forward it to him. I know everyone's pretty desperate for getting their gaming needs, and Brian's done a really nice job for that, and he's online. So if he wants to put in the chat about what the game is, he can do that as well. Let's see what he said about that. Go Delicious. Oh, that's right. That's right. Poor Carlos. He's reminded the Go Delicious and the dragon scenario that we had when that went down.
That was the demise of Go Delicious, wasn't it?
That was, but the amorous surprise-induced combat was probably something he didn't really want to think about too much. So, what else we got? We have what we gave away to David Thompson. Hopefully this week, now that some of my work duties are slowing down, we will be. Do you have dice, by the way?
Oh, of course.
Okay, excellent, good. You'll be doing the dice rolling. Excellent.
I think I also have your green dice.
Yes.
From St. Patty's Day. I took them. Sorry.
Oh, I know. I left the bag out here. You're like.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I'm never seeing him again. He's a dead man. Let me take these dice from me. That's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
No. You know why we're going to? We know we're going to survive the coronavirus. You know how we know this, James? You forget.
Oh yes, that's right. We rolled there.
Yeah, I've got what? I'm down to 2 years probably
2 years
by this
left.
point.
That's right. Dan Gormansky has 2 years left.
Unless that's how long the coronavirus lasts.
Well, that's another story too.
Yeah.
You may just be lingering on for 2 years, so which would be sad. But
yeah,
perhaps you can get some divine intervention and do that. Which we've got an interesting random encounter we're going to have to do in just a second. But before that, we do have a heraldry to give out. So let's, and this is, again, thanks to our patrons. A lot of them are on right now. I know times are maybe getting tough for many of you, so if you continue to help us and support us, thank you so much for that. We know this has been impacting, all kidding aside. So we thank you for that. And so we want to celebrate you all, and that's why we do giveaways. That's why we give out the heraldry. And we give special events. So again, thank you to our patrons. So let's roll. We got
Let's do it.
The plague will not stop giving out titles. The empire is going to continue to grow. In fact, in this times of trouble, we should be expanding. We should be taking advantage of this. Our empire should grow. So Mr. Jonathan Becker has claimed Seattle.
Oh.
But he has made a request. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to give... He wanted something, because obviously Seattle 2 weeks ago was under a plague. You know, it was one of the hot spots. So
Yes.
he wanted some kind of relevance to plaguing. So I made, I'm trying to look over the list here to see... we may under the last one we may call him the Plague Lord of Seattle. So I'm just we may make, depending on what we get for 7, we may do that for him. Yes, no more scourges. All right. So are you ready, sir?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like some anti-plague thing. No, it's the plagues. The Plague Lord.
Yes, he had made a petition to us to have a special dispensation to be called the Plague Lord or something related to that. And I said, well, absolutely, because we need to remember this for posterity. Okay,
well,
so
one of my favorite deities deals with disease, Urtrus.
Oh, Urtrus, that's right.
Orc deity, yeah, the orc deity of disease. But they also pray to Urtrus to avoid disease as well. But okay, but I digress. All right, we're ready to roll?
Yes, roll a d30 and divide it by 2.
A 12, that'll be a 6.
Chancellor.
Don't say I was going to say, if you say Chamberlain, I'm going crazy.
No, it's Chancellor.
Okay. Chancellor.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a judge. The Chancellor was the head of the Courts of Equity. This is fascinating, right?
This is good.
Courts of Equity.
Hold on, I
in
just fell
England.
asleep. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm
Keep
sorry.
going.
You're like my students. Now you know how they feel.
4 hours of this.
This is the only benefit of doing online classes. They can just turn their video off and just sleep. I'm here.
When they don't move and they're just sitting there because it's actually a screenshot. They just click
Exactly.
themselves.
You haven't moved in like 2 hours.
All right, D30.
Okay. D30. Let's do it. No division, just straight up D30,
Yep,
right?
straight up D30.
It is a 20.
20. Okay, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Sublime. The Chancellor Sublime.
I like that.
All right, another D30.
A 30.
Patron.
Okay. He is a patron.
He is. That's very apropos. The dice, yet again, a D15.
He's a sublime patron.
He's a sublime patron. His patronage is sublime.
It is. 26 divided by 2 is a 13.
Emperor. We have another emperor.
Okay. I like how so many of our patrons, they're not really going for huge land grabs.
No.
He's like, I'll Seattle.
Seattle's good.
Because the West Coast is up for... He could have like the entire West... Do we have anybody on the West Coast?
No. Pretty much. We're pretty good.
He could have like taken, Alberta?
He could have taken the Rocky Mountains, basically, west.
Right. Everything west of the Mississippi. Well, that's what people did. Countries did, right?
Right.
France is like, or whoever will claim all west of Mississippi.
Well, but now we know we have, now that our empire has grown, we're being a little more discreet. That's based on your tribute level. I don't think we would give you west. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Now,
okay.
if you're at a super level, I mean, there's only 1 or 2 who we've given continents to, and there's
Right.
reasons why. So
like a copper piece is like a small block in
that's right.
Brooklyn.
You get your house.
That's right. Yeah, a room.
You get not even the whole house, just a room of it. Let's see. Emperor, got it. Okay, next D60. So a D30 and something to figure out if it's the top or back.
Well, I believe the 6-sided is the traditional one, right?
Yes, correct.
So, all right. So it's an 11, and then a 2 on the 6-sided. So it is an 11.
11, 15, 14, 13. Renown.
Okay.
Renown. Okay. Now you get to let's see what you roll for the D30 to see if it's better than Plague Lord.
Okay. 14.
Champion. Yep, see, I'm going to replace that with Plague Lord. You rolled Champion, but I like Plague Lord better.
Okay. I agree.
All right. So...
Can I pray to Urtrus before the show is over?
Sure, why not?
Thank you.
Let's keep the satanic panic going by doing a live prayer to a
That's right.
demi-human evil deity. That's with the Jubilex shirt on. That's awesome.
That's right.
All right,
Hey,
so
it is 1980.
it is. That's right. Panic is afoot.
It's setting in.
It's people are freaking out. They're losing their minds. All right, so I'm going to read this for you since you don't have it in front of you.
Okay.
We now. Do you concur with the bestowing of the title to Jonathan Becker?
Well, let me roll.
That's right.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, good. Excellent. So today we bestow to Jonathan Becker, he is the Chancellor, his sublime patron, Emperor, renowned Plague Lord of Seattle. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Plague Lord.
That's right. Excellent. Well, we will post his heraldry up there. I didn't look at the Swedish Challenge recently, and we haven't gotten any iTunes reviews. So we're now up to the random encounter, which is the interesting part, in that, if I recall, right, the Charon demon was defeated because we had the divine intervention of the leopard, right? Or you don't?
You know I don't pay attention.
Why am I asking you? Why am I
Wait,
asking?
now the leopard lost. Surely the leopard lost. Didn't he run away from fear or something? How could a leopard beat a Charon demon?
What? So I'm glad. What? I totally forgot what happened, and I should have watched it beforehand. I thought. I was under the impression that the Charon demon was fighting a leopard, and then we rolled divine intervention, and
he came.
And the thing, yeah, something came.
Oh, something did come. A cat lord.
Yes, the cat lord.
And there was a battle between the cat lord.
Yeah, and that was it.
I act like this was like 5 years ago.
Right, this was literally 14 days ago. Literally.
We have no idea.
Yeah, I forgot. So I think we have to roll up 2 new random encounters. I think. Huh?
You know what? That's maybe not a bad idea. I wonder if also you should only have so many victories and you got to retire.
Yeah,
you know?
Like Jeopardy, when it used back in the day, you could only have 5 victories.
Oh, you got a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We should have super random encounter. We should have like a battle between some of our all-time favorites, like a battle royal.
Oh yeah, bring a tournament of champions. Okay.
Exactly, bring them back. Like Go Delicious comes back. Like people could pick. Maybe like some of our patrons or something. That could be only if you're higher level. Another way to get more money. If you're a high level patron, you can pick your favorite. This is good, right?
I like it. I'm writing it down.
Right.
This is
the Battle Royal.
Battle Royale. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Royale. Fancy.
With cheese, exactly. Okay. So we need now 2 monsters then if we're going to do that. I agree with your rule.
Thank you. So is the Dorso roll going to apply for either all of both books, both monsters, or none, or for 1 and 1? Do you think?
I think the Dorso rule applies for both of them.
Got it.
Because he's on. If he wasn't on, it wouldn't count then. But he's on.
Oh, Vic is on?
Absolutely, he's on.
Oh, well, because we got to watch what we say about him.
Yeah.
You got to warn me.
Well, and he doesn't seem to be fearful of the plague. He keeps tweeting when he's driving here, there, and everywhere. So he will come down.
Well, that's his job.
He has no problem with that. All right.
So it's a 1, 2, or 3, I think, is the Dorso rule. Is that right? Or what does it matter?
Yes, 1, 2, 3 is the Dorso rule, correct.
Okay, one. It's a 2. So we're using
Fiend Folio for the first monster.
Got it. Okay, you want to roll? Well,
yeah.
Oh wait, who's looking? Who's rolling? Who's looking?
I think I'll roll. I got the Gary Con dice in honor of the game that didn't happen.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
All right. Let's see.
You're rolling a die 10.
Die
right?
10. Okay, I can do that. 2.
Yeah, you're in a dungeon, my friend, and so now it has to be monster level.
Okay, same dice.
I assume it's going to be 10, right?
Yep. 6.
Ooh, that's serious. Okay, I'm flipping.
And flipping. The flip. This virus will not take flipping from us. That's good. All right, now go ahead.
So monster level. Okay, so now it is a percentile. You're on monster level.
Okay, wonderful.
6.
77.
I do not know what this is. It only has one number. It is a Terithran. Teritthran. The word is Terrathran. Oh, I should have had you spell it.
Can you put that in a sentence?
Yeah, we should. That's another fun game. A spelling bee.
A spelling bee of words here? Yes.
Like Jublex or Terrathran, All right, I think...
I have no idea what a Terrathran is, so that's a good one.
Oh, it's got an AC in parentheses.
Oh,
it moves very fast.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
okay.
it's got 3 attacks.
Now I know this one.
You do?
Well, I've seen it before. I don't think I've ever used it. But Terrathran. The Chamberlain Most August from Australia is on. Hello, sir. Welcome to the land during the plague.
Hello. Yeah, welcome to the Abyss.
That's right. Welcome to the Abyss, level 1. Only 665 layers to go. So every time we'll do a layer. I think this is a good idea until the plague is over.
I like that.
Yeah, that's going to be... So next time we'll be in the second layer of the Abyss.
Because we figured it is kind of... It's chaos.
Right.
And it's evil.
And it's evil, and we're descending into madness, so
right.
It's not so bad right now. All right. So the Terrathan, they're from the ethereal plane. This is on page 87 of the Fiend Folio, which I'll share with our dear friends out there. There it is. Boom.
Yeah.
Terrathan. You all see it? Now they see it.
A short, 4-foot tall biped.
Too bright. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You keep talking.
Okay. With long, sinewy arms and an unusually large, misshapen head. It sounds like some people we know.
There you go.
When on the prime material plane, it has a faint, shadowy appearance, though not so faint as a non-corporeal monster, which gives it AC 3, though its actual AC is 6. Figures in parentheses above refer to characteristics on the ethereal plane. In normal melee, the creature fights with 2 claws for 2 to 5 hit points of damage each, but it will try to avoid this type of fighting if possible. So it's, oh boy.
Yeah.
To make full use of its unique magical powers. Oh, James, it's such a long entry.
That's right. This is like 10. This is a page and a half. All right, let's roll up the second guy before we worry about this. Because if it's like a red dragon, it won't matter. I'll keep reading on this while you roll.
Yeah, you learn about, and you report out.
Okay.
So, James, you learn up on the Terrathran.
Yep.
And report out. All right.
So let's do the dorsal rule again for this time. So we're in the monster manual.
Yes. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So to the monster manual.
Yeah, so you just tell me what to roll.
Oh, wait. That's the monster manual 2, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
I'll be right back. It's just, I see it right there.
We've got a request for Mordrons. That's what people want. Could be.
What's a Mordron?
Oh, they're the lawful, neutral creatures from the plane of Nirvana? Is that Nirvana? I think it is. Which one is it? Is it Nirvana, lawful, neutral? I don't remember.
I should know. It's my alignment.
Okay. Yeah, from Nirvana. All right, good. See? Yay for us.
All right, give it a roll.
All right, from Nirvana. Excellent. Okay, what am I rolling?
Die 10.
Ugh, 1.
Dungeon.
Okay, oh good. Dungeon level?
Don't complain. We're in the abyss. This is what happens. Yes, dungeon level.
1.
I'm thinking the Terrathran's going to win.
Possibly.
Okay. Now you're rolling that nonsense, the 2 to 20 or whatever.
Yep, D8 and a D12. 12.
Orc.
We had an orc. Don't we have to re-roll then, or we keep doing an orc?
No, I think we said we don't, because you're not learning anything new about the monster.
That's right. So we have to re-roll.
This is supposed to be educational.
Right, re-roll. 10. Orc.
Bat.
Bat?
Bat.
For this time, bat is perfect.
Hey,
remember
that's a negative view about bats. I object.
That's nothing negative about it. Apparently...
Where's Carlos Lysing? He loves bats.
I'm not anti-bat. It's just very apropos that you picked the bat for this time.
Okay, hold on. Here's first trivia question, and I don't know the answers. Actually I do. Where is the bat? Fiend Folio or Monster Manual 2?
I would say it's in the Monster Manual 2, but I don't know.
I think you're right. I think giant bat. Only in D&D will giant entries come first. Right. Then I think so I think there's just a regular, which is interesting because
well, there's a giant bat in the Fiend Folio,
they're awesome. Yeah, ordinary bat, page 15. Why bats, they're not aggressive, are they? Why do we have a bat entry?
Yeah. Ordinary bat. The Mobat looks pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's not what we got,
We didn't get
unfortunately.
we got the ordinary bat.
Here's the good news.
What is the
I
good
don't think you have to learn about the magical abilities of
No,
our
that's
first monster, because
that's
he's
right.
just going to squish the bat. Oh, wait. Oh, no.
Oh, there's
James.
flying. There's flying. Go
Aerial
ahead.
combat.
That's right. This is not
What-
over.
You know this stuff, right? He's supposed to have an aerial. Oh, was that the B there? The MC? What is MC on move? B. Is that his aerial combat
Yeah, that's
letter?
his aerial combat. All right, so the bat. And that's his movement rating class. So B, he can turn pretty quickly.
I feel like I'm playing a World War One biplane game or
Yes,
something.
the Mobat is the evil one. This is the common one. That's right. He's AC 8. He flies 24, and he has MCB, which is 60-degree turns he can make. So he can turn relatively quickly. He does a whopping 1 point of damage if he hits. So, yeah.
Well, he's clearly being cornered, because they will
Right.
attack only if cornered and forced. If startled, they tend to become frightened and confused and will swarm around and fly into things. Poor thing. Oh, putting out torches, confusing spell casting. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to give them that it's in a fine flying area, so he gets his AC to 4, so he'll have some chance, by the way.
So can I ask you about this? Because
Yes.
we're supposed to be learning a little bit about the bat.
Right.
So what use would you put bats to if you were writing an adventure?
Scooby-Doo.
What? Oh, at the beginning?
That's right.
They come flying out of that. So I guess it really is, though, kind of. The real point is that they're designed to disrupt you, right? You walk into something, maybe you're in combat, and it adds a lot of flavor that you've got a lot of bats flying around and
That's right.
causing havoc.
You're in a cavern, and what's the 2 things you worry about in a cavern normally if it wasn't bats?
Oh, with whichever ones fall from the top. Is it the piercers?
Piercer, and there's the other. Was one something else that everyone worries about?
Oh, in a cave. Hold on. Don't tell. Give me a second. Everyone worries about
They're terrible.
cave.
And we have a picture of them back in the day.
Red dragon.
Well, red dragon would be good.
Trolls. Asmodeus.
No, your favorite, the one that they show the guy dying from it.
Oh, Sturgis.
Yeah, if there's a cave or a cavern, that's what everyone's
Yeah.
looking up. Or green slime too, I guess.
Or red dragon.
Right. So cloaker, but those or red dragon. So this would be a nice flavor thing, because not every encounter has to be deadly. It doesn't have to be a fight for your life. It could just be some bats going through. And like in the hex crawl, hey, you know what? We're starving. Bats.
Oh no! Don't go there. Too soon.
Bats.
Too soon.
Hungry.
Too soon.
Is that a problem?
Oh my gosh, that's what you're saying. Oh my gosh, we rolled. You're right. Is that what you were alluding to?
Yes,
I'm
that's
so
right.
Slow.
That's right. Hey, that's why I'm like, hello. That's why the dice make this happen.
Oh my gosh, we got to go. He's got to. Oh, you're right. The dice don't lie.
They gave us orc first to throw us off and said, let's see
We
if they
really-
can follow their rule. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We really are in the abyss, aren't we?
We are. This is
It's laughing at us.
hell on earth. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So this other creature does not fly. So let's see. Reading quickly, because I don't have time to read this whole thing.
Yeah, you're playing him. I'm playing the bat. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Well, I'm going to give you a special ability. If you do attack and hit, he's going to have to make a saving throw versus a disease. That's simple as that.
Okay, now you're home ruling that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not official rule.
Well,
Right?
if it's an ordinary bat,
Yeah.
bats are ordinary, and we have found, regardless if this disease came from or not, we are aware that bats have disease. Just because they didn't put it here in the Monster Manual doesn't mean it's true. They may have forgot it. It may have been omission. So
Okay.
but we'll see.
Are you gonna do like a giant rat roll? Is that what you're doing?
That's right. Yeah, like a giant rat roll. Exactly.
The
5%.
percentage. What is it? Like
5%. Yep,
Yeah.
5%. I mean, they're basically flying rats, except they're smarter.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Is a rat smarter than a bat?
Rats are pretty smart, aren't they?
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like, well,
but we're looking at intelligence.
yeah, let's look at the
Both gonna
intelligence.
be animal, don't you think? Ordinary bat is animal.
semi for rats.
Oh wait, so if I'm a druid, can I have a bat friend?
Why not? If is that the minimum?
Yeah, I think you got to be at least animal, don't you?
Sounds about right.
You can't be too high is the problem too, right?
Animals 1, semis 2 to 4. So I think you could. I don't remember. What does the chat say?
I think you can't be higher than the semi. But I would assume animals. Okay, that'd be kind of cool to have a bat as a friend.
Right. So basically, the only thing you can do, as some of the people have commented, that this Terrathran can only be hit by silver magical weapons. They have magic resistance 50%.
Oh no! Even on the prime material. Oh yeah, I guess of course on the prime material.
Yeah. On either plane, he's 50% resistance. And so generally, blah blah blah. Use of 8. So what's interesting about this, if you are a certain level spell caster and you start casting spells, there's a chance he will come to the material plane. It will materialize. If it notices disturbances, it will come, attempt to drain his power, and take it back to the ethereal plane for punishment. There you go.
Oh my gosh! Wait. So you're telling me this monster? If I'm just a magic user doing my business, I'm supposed to be the DM's supposed to be rolling to see if this thing appears?
Well, I think you have to roll for it to be here, and then you say, if it's basically an ethereal attack here. I mean, that would be amazing. That would be almost like the earwig. Oh, you cast a high-level spell, boom. Now this Terrathan. It says that the Terrathran has come to dislike the swirls, eddies, and warps which the use of large amounts of magic on the prime material plane causes on the ethereal plane, its homeland. So basically, he's a plane environmentalist.
Yeah.
Right? So if he notices such disturbance, it will materialize in the area of the magic user responsible and attempt to drain his power and take him back to the ethereal plane for punishment. It will only appear when magic is being used and then only if the magic is powerful enough. But it's a magic user illusionist, which seems, I mean, he's a pretty decent guy, but if you're telling me that a high level of magic user can't take care of this guy, that's be surprised.
Okay, hold on. Okay, it says, generally speaking,
yes,
the use of a single spell will not attract the attention. Use of an 8th level magic user spell has a 20% chance of attracting his attention. So we've got an issue here. Now, I haven't read all this because it's so long. I hate reading long entries. But is this so playing it technically, anytime you use a magic user uses an 8th level spell, there's supposed to be a DM roll see if a Terrathran appears, or do you think it's got to be a Terrathran sort of paying attention?
Well, I think that's what the random encounter does, is that you roll the random encounter. This is the way I would do it, because basically they would pop up all over the place, which would be annoying. Is you roll it, they come up, then you would have to say what level spell has been cast, or you'd have to note it, and note the spells need not have been cast by the same person. The requirement is filled if the spells are all... So basically, if there's a big magic battle, you would have to figure out if it came. But that seems like a lot of work.
So in other words, because it's very rare, you could do a roll, right? I can't remember what the very rare percentage is, but you could do a roll. All right, so the point, you're right. This seems very similar to something Gary would create, like the earwig, like you said. Don't listen at doors. The guy's kind of annoying. I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess it's okay to use every... Well,
it's interesting because what I find more interesting is what they're basically writing, and this is, I guess it's allowed, is that the prime material plane is affected through magic, is affecting the ethereal plane, which I really didn't think about. Like it's, like some of these, like Dark Sun, which is a later adventure campaign setting where magic basically destroys the environment. Here it's affecting the ethereal plane, and these are the guardians of that. So I think if your campaign had that capability or wanted that kind of flavor where you're bouncing between planes, which is typically what you do when you have characters who can mop up everyone on the prime material plane, that would be interesting to do. So
Well, that's a really good point, though, because you're right. So what's happening is, if this is considered to be canon,
Well,
that
it
means,
has to be.
right? So that means now that you're right. That apparently by canon now, that magic then, swirls, eddies, and warps are resulting in the ethereal plane from the use of magic on the prime material plane. So yeah, that's now sort of canon. Okay, I learned something.
Yeah, and so I would probably, if I were to run this and was doing random encounters, and this did pop up, I would just keep track of it, and if the magic users started using magic, then it would appear.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, that would be quite surprising because I never heard of this thing. And
No.
so if I was using magic and all of a sudden this thing appears and is trying to take me back to punish me?
Yep. That's
Okay.
take you back to punish you. It's got special drain power. Treat has used all of his spells. So that would just be annoying already if you or be teleported back to the ethereal plane. Awesome.
Oh yeah, so drain power. So you're in a big combat. You're like, I've got all these spells memorized. You start using them, and this guy shows up and just drains all your spells.
Right.
And you're left with your 14 hit points at level 7. Okay.
Yeah, and so the chat is talking about, and I agree. I thought that magic power came from the positive and negative planes based on this. Which, by the way, we're talking about the book that shall not be named in this episode that shall not be named, but we'll get there at some point. Yeah, and that's where the power came out. But it appears that these disturbances affect the ethereal plane. And so, okay, what page is Ordinary Bats on? Ordinary Bats are on page 15.
I find Ordinary Bats more interesting than the Terathan.
Yeah. You'd have to make a camp. It's almost like a one-shot or a mini adventure where you plan on using this and your magic user gets taken to the ethereal plane and then... Yes, I'm sorry, Monster Manual 2, page 15 of that. So let's get this combat going so we can move on to the next order of shenanigans. Oh, did you bring? Have you ever been a gnome illusionist? First encounter, by the way.
Oh, you don't have it? Let me see.
I don't know. Yeah, just
I don't know.
Look at it real quick.
Hang on. I'll check.
Stand by.
Stand by. Turning and flipping.
Right, save the wizard.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, I do. Awesome.
Yeah, we need to do that. Yep. So we'll do that after this and spell selection. Yeah, okay. So like save the wizard. That's a great idea, Robert. Basically, your wizard gets captured and you have to go save him, which of course is not fun for the magic user who gets to sit there to be rescued, but it could be an NPC wizard that you do that for. So there you go.
We don't want to know how he's being punished.
Well, I assume he's being punished by listening to Grog Talk. That's my assumption. 4 hours later. All right, so let's roll distance. They're very close here in the dungeon. So the Terathan was looking for, I see it now. There was a great disturbance. A high level magic user just cast a gate spell before, gated in something. And now this Terathan is perturbed, right? That's a good word. Perturbed by the wizard's insolence and has appeared, but instead of finding the wizard, he finds a bat.
Maybe he's a vampire.
A vampire magic user?
And aren't we talking about Unearthed Arcana? You could be that. I'm sorry, the book that shall not be named.
No, you can't.
Can I be a vampire?
You could. You could be turned into a vampire. Absolutely.
Well, that's a class. I thought that's a class in the book that shall not be named.
You obviously haven't read it. No, it should be. I don't know why it's not. That is the book that shall not be named. The Masquerade is basically what that is. Yeah, that's a good game. That came a couple of years later. So, all right. So they're very close. So it's initiative. You've been startled by this small bipedal creature that looks angry.
Or have you been startled? You show up because you're angry, looking for the magic user, and you might be startled by the bat. So we're rolling surprise now, aren't we?
We are rolling surprise. Absolutely, you are correct.
I got a 1.
3.
I'm surprised for 1 round.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, 1 segment.
That's right. Ugh. Okay. All right.
You got to do something.
So yes, he's going to do something. He's going to. I assume he's going to try to charge you. Well, I'm going to say you were startled, but you're up on the roof, so I don't think he can. Let's see, can he do something? Ooh, stunning blast. That's what he's going to do.
It says what happens when I'm startled.
It says you attack.
If startled, bats tend to become frightened, and I'm frightened and confused. Now I'm only 1, so I don't know if you can really call it a swarm. Swarm around and fly into things. So I am just like going crazy, right? I'm flying around.
Exactly.
You surprise me. And just to let you know, if it is fine flying conditions.
Which I gave you. I already gave you that.
It's a beautiful day in the cave.
It's a beautiful cave. You have perfect flying conditions.
Right? So I'm AC 4.
That's right.
Actually,
go ahead.
Actually, I'm surprised. That picture's perfect. That is me.
That is you, a flying bat.
It's exactly how I look.
And I'm going to put your face on that bat next time, so that'll be great.
It does look a little bit like me.
It does. So I'm going to roll the using the Gary Kahn dice. I'm going to roll to hit.
What are you doing? What attack are you doing?
You're coming at him, so you were surprised. He's going to claw you.
Oh, you're going to try to grab me out of the air?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why you're AC 4.
Go for it. Good luck with that.
Okay. How about 12, which you're AC 4?
I'm AC 4.
He's 5 plus 1 hit dice. I feel like I probably hit.
Yeah, you probably did.
Which I'm hoping.
I'm going to roll my hit points.
Okay.
I have 1 or 2.
Oh, you have 1 or 2. Excellent.
I have 1. Hey. So now we know that the first illusionist I ever played had the same amount of hit points as a bat.
That's right. A bat, an ordinary bat, not even a giant bat.
An ordinary bat. I was as frail as an ordinary bat.
So, unfortunately for you, he does hit with a 12. That's what he needed. And he did 3 hit points of damage. So, that's the end of the bat. So, we have a new leader, which unfortunately is this Terrathran. So, congratulations to the Terrathran. Hopefully we'll roll up a character next time, like an 18th level magic user. That would. Oh yes, thank you, Mephit. Remind us, divine intervention, God of the bats.
Thank you. Is there a deity for what would that be?
I don't know. Let's ask our folks
for ideas.
Well, you're not going to get it.
Wait, Orcus. Does Orcus have bat wings?
Yeah, it has to be some kind of abyssal thing. Now that you mention it.
And I think Orcus may have bat-like wings.
Yeah, that would be.
All right, I'm going to roll, though, all right?
Yeah.
So, what is it? It's only
10%. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what you get. There's a lot of them that have bats.
I was getting excited because I saw a lot of zeros, but it's a 70.
70. Yes, Orcus does have bat-like wings.
Okay.
Or the, Carlos says, Kamatsas, who's Central American mythos. Oh, we should look that up. Which we're hoping, speaking of deities and demigods, we are hoping that next week, we did talk to Jim Ward a few weeks ago about coming on next week. That's obviously oh, I hit the camera. I did a Dan.
No, you're good. Everything's fine.
On your camera. On the other camera, I totally biffed it. That we talked to him a few weeks ago, and he was eager to come on. I needed to call him again to make sure he's doing okay. So let me look up. Was this one?
So you're looking up what didn't come.
That's right.
Sadly.
That's sadly. Oh,
okay.
Kamatsas. Very good, Carlos. Excellent. He is the bat god.
Oh, well, that would have been okay. Hold on. Now that's interesting.
Yeah, page 33 of the deities and demigods, which again, hopefully angled high. Oh, now it is. Yeah, because I bashed my head. Thank you.
I forgot that I'm seeing you on the Skype view. 33.
There you go. There we go.
Bat God. Oh, yeah, he definitely would have come.
Thank you. Top shelf cam. That's exactly.
See, I like what is your thought on using deities from pantheons, even if you're not using the pantheon? Because I love, as you know, the Lankmar. We got the rat god. Now we have a bat god who appears as a huge bat, and always found with 1,000 normal bats flying around him. I mean, that's good stuff. Would you use Kamazats, irrespective of the milieu you were using?
Yes. If I would say for two ways. One, you could just reskin the god, no pun intended, or pun fully intended, and you can just call him Bob the Bat God or whatever you want, and
Right.
take the attributes and move it there. Or you literally have, the cosmopolitan campaign. It's not set in Greyhawk specifically, though Greyhawk, because again, the idea is all these deities are powerful irrespective of where, because the prime material plane is all, known worlds or all worlds. And, just like in Greyhawk, as we've learned, that there are local Greyhawk deities, they don't diminish the deities of other places. Because, the idea is that the followers, so as long as there are followers of that deity in the campaign setting, that could happen. I think it gets a little weird if your campaign doesn't have a cosmopolitan feel to it, like the city-state of the Invincible Overlord or something where we accept all kind of things, or you get almost like the open market where each shrine is to a bunch of deities. So because if it's a trade city where everyone's just coming together and doing that, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a great call there by Carlos. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Right, and basically what folks are saying on there, yeah, they could be known differently. Like we talked about, the names that people know them of, that's not their true name. Their true name is something like demons have their real names, and you can only gate them in if you know their true name. So, they could be called Bob in one world and Joe in another. So it's kind of like the reskinning I was talking about. They could be Zeus, well, like the Greek and Roman deities, right? Zeus and Jupiter are the same deity. They're just called different things.
Are demons the ones where if you say their name, they may actually come?
Yes.
As opposed to devils, the demons may actually come, or is it devils?
I think remember. Devils. I think Asmodeus. I think we talked about Asmodeus. Remember, because we wanted him to show up at the what is it called? Where were we staying at? At one of the inns, and we were like, "Oh, Asmodeus came by." I'm getting as bad as you.
We're probably. I'm sure we're in what Sydenham.
Yeah, Suderham. That's right.
Suderham.
Yeah.
Probably. I think. Yeah, one of them. If you say their name.
Well, if you say their true name, not just. Yeah, it's not just. It's not like what the heck's that thing called? Where you're just screaming and saying Beetlejuice, 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 Beetlejuice
right.
50 times, right. And then you get a plague. So, all right, well, we have the Terra Thrain for the next time. Divine Intervention did not work, unfortunately. So I think we're ready for spell selection.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, people are making requests for Asmodeus to come to their birthday parties. I like that. Perhaps some folks are confused on how that would go. I don't think that would go great.
And we're in the abyss. Come on.
That's right. We're in the abyss. If he showed up here and there are auditions after the book that shall not be named that talk about these fights between the devils and demons, we won't get into all that. That's way beyond the scope of this show. We don't know anything about that.
So I'm rolling percentile because we're using the scroll percentage, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'm going to roll some percentile. I know you know these. You've got them memorized, actually. Ooh, a 1. Is that something good?
No, that's...
Oh, magic user?
That's magic user.
What do I need for an illusionist now?
Over 90 or above.
Jeez.
No, I'm sorry. 10. Roll that again, you get illusionist.
Okay, so 1 to 10.
Yeah, that's right.
86, magic user.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be. Why am I doing? That's not nice of me. I should be excited. Magic user. Awesome. All right. We have 9 levels. You want me to roll? I'm going to go ahead and roll. I see you're on the chat there, so I'm going to go ahead and roll. It's 3rd level.
Okay.
James, do you know how many spells are on 3rd level?
Ooh, magic user?
Correct.
24?
Very good. Very impressive. As a matter of fact, well, I don't want to get into it. 2nd through 6th are all 24.
Right.
Oh, Yeah, and I want to complain about the lack of cantrips in the book that shall not be named for illusion. It's not the lack, but how few there are compared to.
You can't start. You can't start that now.
My apologies.
That isn't there rules of court rules or rules of law? You can't start the prosecution without the defense being present.
Yeah, yes, I'm out of order.
That's right.
Okay.
You're kind of the judge and the prosecution. This is a very fair trial because you're the only one who knows the rules of order when it comes to court cases.
To D&D court cases.
Yes. Well, it's our court. It's the Grog court.
Exactly. We do whatever we want.
And no offense to our friends in Australia, it will make a kangaroo court look like it's completely legitimate. So,
to be sure. All right, I've got a 19. Okay, protection from. This is not a bad one to talk about. Protection from evil, 10-foot radius.
Ah, very good. Protection from evil, 10-foot radius.
And what I'm going to want to ask about is whether or not this is exactly the same as the protection a paladin gets.
It is.
Is exactly the same. So the paladin works. Wait, now you said pretty much.
Well, the difference is the one is permanent unless they change to be a paladin. This one is not. This one has a time, duration. So
you mean if they become so if they violate their alignment, they become a cavalier?
Right.
That's ridiculous. You see what I did there, didn't you?
That's right. Cavalier. What's that?
They become a cavalier, right?
Yes.
Instead of becoming a fighter.
Well,
is this a penalty?
Exactly. Well, as long as their alignment that they end up with, no, that's right. Only barbarians have to be chaotic. I can't remember. It's so much foreign information. It
is. I didn't spend. I flipped through it quickly. All right. So protection from evil, 10-foot. Oh, they're sending us to cleric.
Yeah, but yes, it's the same spell. It's the same effect.
Okay.
Which is why paladins are very powerful, because they have basically a 3rd level spell on them at all times.
Okay, so let me look quickly at the differences. The duration. Oh, I was on normal missiles. 2 rounds per level versus. Okay, so it's a lesser duration for magic user. It's 3rd level, number 1, as opposed to 1st level for clerics, and it's only 2 rounds per level instead of 3 rounds per level. Look, the area of effect. Area of effect says creature touched. Right. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. First of all, the cleric spell is protection from evil. The magic user spell is protection from evil, 10-foot radius. Right. The same, except with respect to its area of effect.
Right. Don't hurt yourself.
I am hurting myself.
Which, by the way, there is a 4th level, which doesn't make sense. A 4th level cleric spell, protection from evil, 10-foot radius. Though you only have to be 3rd level protection from evil as a magic user.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, there you go. It's confusing.
And it's interesting, the magic user spell, it can be cast quicker, 3 segments versus 4 segments. Okay.
Well, look at the 4th level cleric spell, because I would do like for like if you're going to do that.
But what's interesting is, I know, but it says in the magic user one, this spell is the same as a 1st level protection from evil spell.
Right. Well,
so it refers you to the cleric spell, 1st level.
Yeah, but they should refer you to this, because on page 40, first of all, protection from evil, 10-foot radius, page 75, player's handbook for the magic user. Page 49, 10-foot radius for the cleric. And protection from evil is flipping.
And then the protection from
44.
Evil for the cleric on 4th level on page 49 says, it's the same as the 1st level spell.
Right.
Except for the area. So
just real quick, the cleric is 1 turn per level versus, I'm talking about protection from evil, 10-foot radius, is one turn per level, the magic user 2 rounds per level. So it doesn't last as long. Takes 4 segments longer. It has assuming it has the same, and what's interesting, to complete this spell, the cleric must trace a circle 20 foot in diameter. Has anyone ever done that? Have any DMs ever said, yes, you're casting the spell, you're now in the middle of combat tracing out a circle 20 foot in diameter using holy water or blood, incense, or smoldering dung? Smoldering dung.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, this is disgusting. To complete the spell, the cleric must trace a 3-foot diameter circle
Well,
upon the
that's
floor.
in first level one. Go to the fourth level cleric. But go.
Yeah, but this is what I have to do for but the magic user spell says it's the same as a first level cleric. So if I'm the magic user, I have to do what I have to do for the first level cleric spell,
Well,
right?
that doesn't. I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't make any sense. Because
Why not?
because in what if you look at the intent of the protection on protection from evil, where you're creating a 3-foot diameter, that's to protect yourself.
Right.
The 10-foot one, if you go to the fourth
Right.
level, you're doing a 20-foot diameter, which makes more sense because you're protecting
You're right.
10 feet. So
You're right.
I would say the effects of protection from evil, as far as -2 to hit, +2 to creature saving throws, that's the same regardless of the spell. The way you conjure it would be more in line with the fourth level spell. But
That makes sense. I agree. You convinced me, but yeah,
But
it bothers me.
yeah, exactly. Why'd they tell you to go to that spell? They should have told you to go to the fourth level spell, and then the fourth level spell tell you to go to the first level spell. I
Can I ask you
totally
something?
agree.
Can I ask you about the first level one about the dung?
Yes, dung,
Because I
smoldering.
mean, right? Yeah, smoldering.
Right.
So it says, or in the air, using burning incense or smoldering. So the fact that it's smoldering, it's like the smoldering part of it. Is it like the whatever rises? I don't know, smoke. I don't know if
Yeah,
dung
yeah,
creates smoke.
yeah. If you're burning dung, that's pretty.
So you're waving. So I've dung in my hand. Don't burn myself.
Yeah.
How do I get the dung to be? So I need dung,
Yep.
and now I got to get it smoldering. So I've got to have a torch or something.
Right. You've never seen
I
smoldering dung before?
Well, I saw them in Toledo
Right.
in '82.
They were huge in Toledo.
What happens when dung smolders?
Well, it's like incense. It has a trail of
How do
smoky
you-
wisp of dung.
You sound like you know this very well.
I've seen it before, smoldering
What?
dung. Yes. When
You've
I'm praying to Jubilix, you need smoldering dung. It's really not that.
It is the Satanic Panic.
That's right. Exactly. Hey, Mom. After church, can we play D&D? Can I get some dung from the back? Yeah.
Right. Well, I've got cat boxes. So
Right.
So
That's what you should be doing. Go get some cat dung and set it on fire. I think that would be great.
Right. You really just need the incense here. So you could use so you're carrying along dung. So you're the dude who's smelling.
Or blood you could use. If you don't want dung,
Right.
if you smell smoldering dung, that's generally a bad sign. Right. And people burn dung as fuel in other countries.
Oh, I see. It's the good versus evil.
Yes.
Oh, so it's the holy water for protection from evil, blood for protection from good, or you alternatively the air, you can use incense for good, smoldering. Oh, so for protection from evil, which is what most characters are going to be doing, you've got to use right to use holy
Incense
water.
and
Oh, and
holy
then
water.
burning incense. Right. But so the smoldering. So if you're the evil cleric, and you want protection from good,
Right.
you're carrying along. So the evil cleric is walking around with blood and dung.
Yes. Right.
Okay, and then you burn.
That was a great book, Blood and Dung, or that song, Blood and Dung, from
Blood and Dung.
from the Burning.
That was their first album.
First album, Blood and Dung, and now Smoldering Dung. This one's off our new album, Blood and Dung. Yeah, that's exactly.
That sounds good. Okay, well, this has been all right. So what happens now? So we've just I'm. Oh, but I'm tracing the circles. What you're saying forget about that business.
Well, in this case, in the 10-foot radius, if you go to the fourth level spell cleric, it says to complete the spell, the cleric must trace a circle 20 foot in diameter using holy water or blood, incense, or smoldering dung as according to protection from evil spell.
Right.
Which again lends itself that the third level magic user would have to do the same thing.
I agree with that. Okay. So, all right. So carry along.
But no one's ever done that. That's my point. No, I've never heard someone say. Go ahead.
Shame on the dungeon master, right?
Well, shame on the players too for not mentioning that they're frolicking around in the combat with their incense trying to trace a circle around them, which is why the paladin thing is so powerful, because they don't have to
Okay,
do
well,
all
let
that.
me ask you. Okay, this is interesting. The casting time, usually, we know casting time includes getting components.
Right.
But I'm going to assume that drawing the circle or doing it in the air, however you do it, is it fair to say you would not include that in casting time?
No, the casting time includes that, typically. Let's
Oh, so you'd include making well, I thought casting is sort of like, you know, so you would construe that as what, a verbal and somatic? Oh, no, it's not verbal, it's a somatic.
right.
Well, and it's material.
Right. The casting time on page 43 shows the number of melee rounds or segments of a melee round required to cast the spell. Part of casting the spell is to do that somatic component, which is using the material to trace it around.
So but 3 segments is 18 seconds, right?
3 segments is 18 seconds. That's right.
So what you're telling me is in 18 seconds, I'm able to trace a circle 20 foot in diameter.
Right. How long?
And then stand, I guess, in the middle of it or something. And we know that there are verbal components. So I'm going to then start doing it all in 18 seconds. That's speedy.
Well, and what's interesting too is because you have to move. Typically, you're not allowed to move.
And what if your circle's shaky? So in other words, if you're in you really want to cast this sooner, because if you're in combat,
right?
I mean, people are going to be like, "Excuse me, coming through."
That's my point. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm good. So I have to remember next time someone wants to throw up, I'm going to cast protection from evil 10-foot radius in combat. And you're fighting? I don't think so.
Right. This is where being a paladin is better. It's
just awesome. That's right. You got to be in the back, or I mean, that's what the people are saying on chat is. This is what makes the game interesting. When we just assumed Deo Gracias, bloop, 10-foot radius. No, you've got to.
Right.
Now, since we know that our friends love math, how long will it take what is the distance someone has to travel around a 20-foot diameter circle? That's what I want to know.
And keep in point, the casting time includes, built into that, you're supposed to be able to get out your components. So you're getting out your component, right? And keep in mind, I believe that's only if your components are readily accessible, like in your robe, you got these little folds and pockets.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about if you've got holy water, I think Gary says this somewhere, if you've got something in your backpack, that's a little bit harder to get out.
Right.
So if you've got your holy water in your back, or your incense you actually have to light, right? So if you've got your tinder box, you've got to get that out, light your incense, or get your holy water out of your backpack, then trace it, then I assume stand in the middle of this thing and engage in your somatic. And I'm skeptical of the 3-segment casting.
Well, now this is why we have our great DMs on here. Someone threw a monkey wrench. David Thompson threw a monkey wrench. We need to go to the first level protection from evil magic user, which says the material components is powdered iron and silver.
Oh.
So you don't use the dung if you're a magic user, which kind of makes sense because you're not a cleric.
Oh, yeah, because you know what?
And that's on page.
So I screwed up. It says this spell is the same as the first level protection from evil spell. I just went to cleric. I assumed cleric.
Well, it does say,
I didn't realize it's a magic user.
It does say that. It does say that on page 75. See also first.
No, see also. This spell is the same as the first level protection from evil.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yes.
See also.
The see also. The old see also. You're right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on.
Reading is fun. So now we're on page 67.
We were in the wrong thing.
Right. We're on page 67 now.
There it is. And you know what it's going to do? It's going to refer us to the cleric, right?
Yes.
With the differences shown above and the requirement of powdered iron and silver as the material components for tracing the magic circle for protection from evil. The spell is the same. Wait, does this mean that I don't get to use the dung if I'm evil? Wait.
Yeah, you can't use dung. You have to use this component.
I didn't know if it was just for drawing the circle as opposed to doing it in the air, because you can do circle. Wasn't there a song with circle in the sky?
That's right.
I can do a
spirit
circle.
In the sky too.
I can do a circle, so I can't do the circle. I can't do the aerial circle. You don't think, as the magic user? So I got to use iron, powdered iron, and silver. So silver is if you're trying to. Okay, hold on a second. So iron is if you're trying to keep away evil, right?
Right.
And silver is if you're trying. I would have thought it'd be the opposite. Silver if you're trying to keep away good.
Yeah, silver. I don't know.
Well, usually the first one, the cleric spell.
Well,
it
iron's.
starts with.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it says evil/good.
Right.
So it starts with blood, right? It starts with holy water, and then blood. So it does evil/good. So evil, protection from evil would be first. So that would mean that you'd be using iron. Could you imagine if you weren't sure? Which one is it? You screwed up. You used the wrong one.
Well, this says powdered iron and silver. It doesn't, even though it's reversible, it does not say you use one for the other and the other. It sounds like and. It's right. It's conjunctive. It's powdered iron and silver together as the material component.
Oh, for tracing the magic circle for protection from evil.
Right, on page 67.
So you use iron and silver. That would make more sense because silver is usually keeping away baddies.
Yep.
Usually, right? I mean, silver weapons hit stuff. So you think iron and silver is the material components.
Regardless if it's reversible or not.
And
for magic
so
users.
you think, so you think if you reverse it. See, this is very confusing. So what's being taught in the magic user? Like if we look at Saul's notes from his magic user class.
Right.
Because they have to have this, right? Because you've got people of all alignments, and you're teaching, today we're teaching first level magic user spells, which is exactly what you would be taught in magic user school, right? Because you're all you got is these cantrips, whatever. They would have to talk about, now listen, you have to be aware that your material components might differ. And someone raises their hand. I have a question. I was reading the textbook, and professor, you're the professor. I'm Saul. I'm a young Saul.
Get out of my class.
Right? Put on some pants.
Put on some pants and get out of my class.
So Saul, Professor, Saul was that dude. Professor, I have a question.
What does the text tell you, student? That's the thing. That's right.
You're the professor. I had a question.
This is Abjuration 101, right? This is the first level.
This is Abjuration 101,
right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Professor, I have a question. If I'm evil alignment, which of course I'm not, but I was just curious anyway, and everyone's like grumbling. If I was of evil alignment, what material components would I use for protection? If I was trying to cast a protection from good spell, or you can reverse it, right? Professor, isn't it true that if you are a good alignment, you can also cast protection from good because you may have annoyed somebody who was good and they're coming after you. So if I want to cast protection from good because reversible, what are the spell components? Because I need to know.
Yes.
For the test. Is this going to be on the test?
Yes.
What? Yes.
Yes, it is.
It's on the test.
Which, yeah, if you're it'd be scenario based. You're standing there, you're a prestidigitator, right? That's first level magic user, correct?
I'm an apprentice now.
Oh, well.
I'm in school. I'm learning. I hope to be.
Yeah, but the question is, you're pretending your future thing that you're
Yes.
The scenario is you're a young prestidigitator. A solar stands in front of you. What spell component do you need for protection from evil?
Right.
And then it would say dung,
right,
holy water, incense, or silver and iron.
Right, and this would be good. Yeah, we should write up an exam, like a magic user exam. So yeah, I don't know. That's very confusing to me. I don't know what to make of it. Well, you know what we need to do? We're forgetting there's a lot of information. Well, that's an exaggeration. There's some information.
Oh, that's true.
Spells
Yes, we need to go on here.
In the DMG.
I'm going to just let you know, some folks are not finding this very compelling, this back and forth on protection from evil. I'm just letting you know that. I know you don't care, but...
Are they first-time listeners?
They don't care. Okay.
Hey, buddy, we're the only show in town. You'll listen and you'll enjoy. You got nothing else but us at this point. We got all the power.
So there is something to said on clerical, page 41 of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Okay.
It says, note that this keeps out monsters using natural body weapon attacks, which require touching the protected character. So I understand your concern about the mechanics of launching this spell or casting it. But really, this spell is very powerful because not of its -2 and +2, which again is what usually people cast it for. It's for all these other things that it does. If you read the original first level, and I'm looking at the 4th level and just to see if there's any difference. Nope, it doesn't say any. Oh, protection from evil. So there's 2 entries for protection from evil. One cleric, one magic user. Under the magic user one, it says on page 45, this spell prevents attacks which employ parts of the body of affected creatures, which is basically what it said on the other one. Why did they have to say it twice? I don't know. Why didn't they just say see the first entry? Come on, Gary. Come on.
So what's the improvement on the 10-foot as opposed to, so we have both cleric and magic user, and what is the so the 10-foot is going to be?
Well, your whole party gets the -2 +2, and more importantly, the reason you would keep that spell, because this is going back to protection from evil on page 44. It prevents bodily contact from creatures of an enchanted or conjured nature. Demons.
Okay, so this is important because this is often a matter of contention, isn't it? So protection from evil is not simply so you run into an evil bandit.
Right.
This is not protecting you from the evil, right? From the evil bandit, correct?
It does. Anything that's evil.
Okay.
Because it says after that, furthermore, any and all attacks launched by evil creatures incur a penalty of -2 to hit, and any saving throws caused by such attacks are at +2.
Okay, so that's so you avoid bodily contact completely, so it's really awesome against enchanted or conjured creatures. And I guess that's where the debate comes in, is what's enchanted. I mean, conjured, I guess, is a little bit easier.
Right.
But then it says summoned animals or monsters are similarly hedged. So actually summoned, meaning somebody...
Yeah, if you do summon monsters or conjuring monsters. Conjuring woodland animals, you could potentially say, if they were evil. If they're not evil, which most monsters are, most animals are not evil or good. They'd be neutral. But if they were evil, you could protect yourself. But it does, if it says conjured, that would include, notice how it has elementals. They're neutral.
Oh.
Invisible stalkers are neutral. And when I mean elementals, the normal elementals, I'm sure there's other elementals that are evil. So summoned animals are similarly hedged. So if you summoned your woodland beings, doesn't matter.
Oh, so really what it is, it's protection from enchanted, conjured, summoned, or evil. Now I understand the evil is just the +2 -2. There's differences, but so that's what it, so what you're saying is it's any enchanted or conjured or summoned is complete protection, like a bubble.
Right, you're in a bubble. Well, you're protected from physical touching. They cannot touch you.
Oh, but they can cast spells at you.
Correct. If they can cast Fireball, they can still do that.
I got you. So it's just like a bubble for like a physical attack. Okay.
Right.
And that's for any alignment. That's the way you pointed that out. Yeah,
any alignment for those type of things. And if they're evil, you get the -2 +2. That's why the Paladin is ridiculous.
So let me ask you, how does this, so how do you, and I know that Edward, right, who's a very good player, he would corner monsters, right? You can corner them, and then they're kind of trapped, right? If you corner them, then you just kill them with right. You can just
if they're trapped, as long as you don't break the plane. Typically, what people say is, if the protection lasts as long as you don't go into the space of them.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So like the turning issue. Do you like
right.
breaking the turn? Oh, I'm sure there's huge dragon's foot debates on this.
Exactly. So you could push them into the corner. But if you break if you move within 8 feet of them and you willingly push your way in, then they can get to you, in theory.
It bursts. The bubble bursts.
That's right. You've broken the seal.
But you could have other people do range weapons.
That's right. You, in theory, that's right. As long as if you're standing in the center and you're just throwing missiles at them, you can just shoot them.
And what?
Because or else the spell wouldn't work normally. I mean, that's how the paladin works.
Right. And how would, so when would you use this thing? So is this kind of like a bless or a chant where it works best before going into, I
Yes.
guess.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because you want everyone to have the protection from the outset.
Well, and especially the cleric one because it lasts much longer.
Yeah, and even the magic user one's not too bad. Two
Well,
rounds per level
two
is pretty
rounds per
good.
level. If you're third level, that's 10 rounds. That's a turn. You know, you're not going to be just, it's not a shield that you're going to kind of keep turn on as you're exploring the dungeon because it's only good for a turn. It's good for combat. You know you're going to fight the big
Right.
boss. We're going to go in there. Let's cast Bless. Let's cast Protection from Evil. Let's get all those going, and then let's charge in there. Haste.
And how many people can you get in a 10-foot radius?
Well, that's a good question. How big are they?
See, that's why gnomes are useful.
Gnomes are not useful. There's plenty of small creatures that are actually smaller than them.
So let's say okay, humans.
How many humans? Well, in a 10-foot, it's typically 3 across in a 10-foot corridor for fighting purposes. So I usually say between 5 and 7, right? If you do it by the grid, you can either get 5 or 9 depending on how gracious you are.
Yeah, because a radius is obviously not a diameter.
Right.
A radius means that I got actually a 20-foot diameter. Is that right? I'm trying to remember back from geometry.
Yeah, so it's 10-foot radius, it's 20-foot diameter. So
and of course
you could get, between four each way. So you could get the whole party in there if they stay together.
And yeah, because you're moving. I mean, obviously in melee, things are happening.
Right.
If the bats swarm.
Right. If you run away, and that's the thing with the paladin. Everyone's trying to hug the paladin as they're playing. Oh, I was next to the paladin. Wait a minute, I thought you were shooting a bow. Oh no, I was next to him because they all want the bonuses.
I said that. I told you that. You weren't listening. So what is So how does it differ with the paladin, other than the fact that it is, other than the fact that it's permanent? Is there anything else? It's 10-foot radius,
No,
right?
that's about it. I don't think it has any other differences.
When do you get it?
Immediately.
What?
The continuing emanation of protection from evil in a 10-foot radius around the paladin. Page 22, superpower number 6.
What do they call this? A prestige class?
I don't know. I guess so. Yeah.
The continuing, okay, page 22, the continuing emanation of protection from evil.
That's right. Someone just said social distancing. It's the ultimate social distancing. Stay 10 feet away, you evil demon. Exactly.
Yeah. We all need protection from evil now. Okay.
Protection from bats.
Right. They're not evil, and they're not summoned, and they're not
Well, not the bats, not the normal bats, but the Mobat is evil.
Right.
Neutral with evil tendencies. Okay.
Why is there not a protection from neutral?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure there's a history to it. Why it should be protection from alignment or protection from opposite alignment. But again, there's no opposite of neutral.
Well, yeah, protection from chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral, they're dangerous.
Right. Well, they want to restore balance and all this other craziness. So, all right. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, cool. Very good. So we did protection from evil. Let's. Do you want to do the first encounter since we still have people on?
Sure, let's do it.
Right. And what people are mentioning is, if you have summoned creatures, if they're neutral, and so that's a very powerful spell. Is that the grok? Exactly. If that's the, when you cast, for instance, the magic user wants to cast summon earth elemental, you're supposed to create a magic circle, or you can cast protection from evil. When it's just a matter of when the earth elemental loses its mind and wants to attack you, you better have that protection from evil on, or good, because he'll wail on you. And that'll be the end of the magic user. So, okay. We're now going to do, have you ever been a gnome illusionist, correct?
We are. What did we, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I think that we've done this.
Maybe you should put like a bookmarker.
Right? So we might be here that you finished with the giant badger and started on your task once again. Luckily, most of these are soon eliminated from choice. Okay, I think we're. Oh yeah, no, we haven't seen a bugbear. Have we seen a bugbear?
No, we haven't seen a bugbear.
No. No, we haven't. Okay, I think we're right. I think we are right here. Yeah, we saw a giant badger, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we saw one, and some tried to avoid it. Some just straight out killed it or whatever.
Well, and I, of course, talked to it.
Right, and you got attacked.
That's true. Okay, you finished with the giant badger. Oh, and just for people who have never listened to the show or watched the show before, this is from First Encounter Magazine, a magazine out of Canada in the early 1980s. It's sort of a choose-your-own-adventure, but it's designed to test your skills as a player playing a gnome fighter illusionist. And James has done very well. I don't think you've lost a single hit point yet, have you?
Correct.
Oh, and this was done by our good friend Kelly Villamere. Oh, we need to roll.
I just put that down. After this, we got to roll.
Got it. So you finish with a giant badger and start on your task once again, traveling down the dirt-walled corridor, which turns this way and that, with many side passages. Luckily, most of these are soon eliminated from choices, as Garth had already searched these and had found the quickest way to where the golem should be. As you turn down a side passage, you are startled to see a bugbear standing at the entrance of a chamber with his back toward you. Inside the chamber is another bugbear sharpening his axe on a stone. You also see a door on the other side of this chamber through which you must go. You decide to... All right, everyone, are you listening? We got
Right.
10 choices here.
10 choices.
Number 1, cast color spray, which should blind them both, then attack them with your sword. So color spray is number 1. Number 2, change self into a bugbear, then attempt to walk past them with sword within reach and pointing in the direction you came from, although keeping mute. 3, cast invisibility on self, then walk past them as quietly as possible with sword ready just in case. 4, use Staff of Fear on the one near the entrance and attack the other with your mace. 5, attack immediately with sword, knowing these creatures are oofs and clumsy. 6, read Paralyzation Scroll at them. If it fails, attack with sword. 7, read Dispel Illusion Scroll or cast spell at this obvious illusion. If it fails, attack with sword. 8, cast Blur Spell on self, then attack immediately with your sword. 9, cast Improved Phantasmal Force spell, creating an illusion of the walls and ceiling, falling in on the bugbears to kill them. Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. 10, use Ring of Lightning on one near entrance and attack the other with mace. So, 1 color spray, 2 change self into bugbear, 3 invisibility, 4 Staff of Fear, 5 attack immediately with sword, 6 Paralyzation Scroll, 7 Dispel Illusion, 8 Blur, 9 Improved Phantasmal Force, 10 Ring of Lightning.
Now the ring, we haven't said the ring has any permanent. By the way, Jordan, the production hobgoblin, is on with us. So for those who can't see him, he's off camera. So say hi.
Hey.
Hey. So we've got a bunch of folks out there. Well, I'm going to use the Ring of Lightning. Obviously, that's number 10. Sounds amazing.
Now, have you used that before or no?
No, I used the Scroll of Paralyzation. So
Okay.
That's why I can't do 6.
I'm going to use, I really like I love Phantasmal Force. I'm going to do the improved, I may be wasting it, but I'm going to use 9, the Improved Phantasmal Force. I was very close to Color Spray. Color Spray is really awesome against low-level creatures, right?
Yes, but you're the gnome lover, gnome illusion lover.
I shouldn't be asking you questions.
Correct.
You're right. I'm like I'm cheating. I'm turning over to you and asking questions. You're like, shh, I'm taking the test.
That's right.
We're going to get in trouble.
Can you hear this?
No.
Okay. Hey,
This is okay.
go ahead.
So I'm going to do 9.
I'm
Improved
doing
Phantasmal Force.
10. All right, folks, put your choices down. We have Shannon chose 3, Brian went with 6, Bucky went with 3, Method 7, Shannon 3.
Okay. Are they all in, do you think?
I don't know if David's picked yet. Chamberlain? Oh, Phantasmal Force, whichever one that is.
Then Phantasmal Force is number 9. That's what I'm doing. Improved Phantasmal Force,
it.
number 9. All right, so read out the number. What's our first number?
First one I see is a 3.
Okay, the invisibility and trying to walk past, ready just in case. No problem.
All right, good job.
He's through.
It's through. And who did 3? You're good.
Who was that?
Bucky and Shannon.
Impressive. Okay. What's our next number?
Oh, jeez. You're going to do it this way?
Oh, sorry.
Just go through all of them, 1 through 10. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know who did one.
Number 1 was color spray. This works better than you thought. I thought it would work great. It puts them unconscious.
Oh. That's good.
That is. Number 2, the change self into a bugbear. I had a bad feeling about that because they may not know there's another bugbear, right?
Exactly.
They run over to see what you're running from. Great move. So you were lucky if you, right? Because you didn't know if there's another bugbear. So that 3 was the invisibility. That worked perfectly. 4 is the staff of fear. Staff works on near entrance, other attacks. Take 2 hit points of damage. Staff works on the one near the entrance. The other attacks, you would have taken 2 hit point of damage. So if you picked Staff of Fear, that was okay, but not great. Attack immediately with sword, you would kill them, but you take 4 hit points of damage. That was number 5. Number 6, the paralyzation scroll works on 1, but you take 3 hit points of damage from melee with the other one. 7 was a dispel illusion scroll. This is no illusion. Take 6 hit points of damage from the melee. Number 8 is the blur. Kill them, but take only 3 hit points of damage because blur helps. 9, now this is the 9. This is what I did. The cast advanced, improved phantasmal. Kill 1 in the chamber who dies. However, the other one sees you. You pull out the sword. Oh, I've taken 2 more hit points of damage.
Yeah, like the quarters. That's right.
And number 10, so 2 hit points of damage, James, from the phantasmal. And 10, which was the ring of lightning. Kill the first one. Oh, James has taken damage.
Uh-oh.
Yep, you killed the first one. The other one gives you 3 hit points of damage in melee.
Oh, that's terrible.
So, the one thing I think that Kelly, he's too nice. Kelly has a soft heart, and that's why we like him.
Right.
But, there really should have been some in here where just, no, you're killed.
Right, you're dead instantly.
Instant, right? No, but okay, so there it is. So that is another installment. And just to let you, have you ever played a Gnome Illusionist? And just to let you know, we have 1, 2, oh, never mind. We've gone a long way. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we got a lot more installments of that. So there it is.
So perfect for the Abyss. I mean, perfect for the travel through the Abyss. Seasons in the Abyss. That's the name of this series now.
Yeah, Seasons in the Abyss. That was Dung. Wait, what was our band? What was it? Smoldering Dung. That's their
Smoldering Dung. Well, that's Slayer's second album.
Oh, that's right, Slayer. Seasons in the Abyss. That was actually kind of past to me.
Yeah. So.
That's past Rain and Blood, right?
Yes, and Rain and Blood's not really their first album. I always keep forgetting. There's like.
Show No Mercy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite. Okay.
Oh, hold on. We're gonna get. Because, nothing says fun like listening to us jibber jabber. Perfect.
I thought it was Production Goblin. Nico's Hobgoblin.
Huh? No, that goes by smallest of most powerful.
Hobgoblin's big, right?
Yeah, Hobgoblin is bigger than a goblin.
I kind of want to be the homunculus. So.
Oh, you want to be a homunculus? Who wouldn't want to be a homunculus? All right. Let me hold on just a second. All right, we got that.
Don't be giving us a
Put the
plumber.
headphones on. All right, go ahead. Try that. Go ahead. All right.
Oh, I hear Dan loud and
All
clear.
right. So now Jordan can hear this shenanigans. All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. Great. So.
Oh, he couldn't hear me?
No. I had to turn up the speaker, and then that's going to mess up the. We'll get echo, so we don't want to do that.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. So now we have to do the thing that Kelly sent us, which, for those who don't, who didn't see our interview with Kelly and with Eric.
No, Eric Haas.
Yeah. Yep. He is a man very, he is a prolific writer of fantasy stuff. I'll just say it that way. And so he sent us where did you send me that? Through email?
Well, I don't think I think so. I don't think he wrote that. And he got that off the internet.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not his design. Though he is a prolific writer we know of a lot of secondary skills.
Yes, which I'm going to have to put up at some point.
Well, it's my fault because I owe you the
soft copy,
the Microsoft Word versions. Exactly.
Right.
He's done like cheese making and oyster shucking,
scavenging, setting snares, shopping, stone carving, tattooing, taunting, tickling, proficiency in tickling. I like that.
Because why wouldn't you need that?
Why wouldn't you? I think that's great. But he did send us a thing about trying to find toilet paper. Is that right? Rolling a d20?
Yeah, exactly. So you need me to find that? I think I emailed it to you.
But you emailed it to me?
I think so, but probably would be an email.
You probably did. I don't.
I can minimize this. I just want to make sure I get back.
Well, you'll probably shut it off, and that'll be the end of that.
Right.
That's okay.
No, I'm going to my email.
Let's see.
Yeah. So it was. Oh, you got it?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
So roll a d20. So for those who are, hold on, let me see if I can. There we go. Put this up.
So everyone out there needs to roll a D.
Let's see if I can make it look good. Let's see, back off. I can't.
So in this time, 1E is all about resource management, James, isn't it?
Yeah, it is about 1E. It's too bright. I can't show people this, but it's the toilet paper panic of 2020. So you have to roll a d20 to figure out how you're going to either procure toilet paper or use something else instead of toilet paper.
And James, this is something we don't talk enough about.
Let's see.
I know that Ed Greenwood has pointed out that there's not been enough attention paid to restrooms and things like that. And 1E
it doesn't work. Sorry, guys.
Dungeons.
I'll put it up later on Twitter.
But some of the fun is knowing what you got. So everyone out there should roll a d20,
Yep,
right? And you're going to tell us what we have to use as toilet paper.
Right. So everyone roll a d20. I'll tell you what you, in your quest for toilet paper, what you got.
And is generally high good or low?
High is
good?
Well, no, I don't want to tell people because.
Okay, you got it.
See, that's the beauty of first edition. When you play online and you're worrying about people cheating, which again, you better have different friends if you do that. With first edition, you're never quite sure if rolling high or low is good or bad. So I'll let Jordan roll. You roll both of these.
See, this is better, James, that they don't have.
It's a family affair. That's right. Exactly. You rolled a 2.
All right.
Okay. Here's my roll. Ooh, a 20.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
Can I borrow some of your stuff?
Yeah. Okay. And what'd you roll?
I rolled an 8.
8. All right. We'll start with you. Congratulations. You get to use newspaper, which depending on the newspaper, that's what it's useful for.
That's right.
Jordan, you rolled a 2. Pine needles or sticks? Let's just say you should hold it. Vic Dorso got an 8. You and Vic are using the same newspaper. He's using maybe the Morning North Star or whatever, and you're using the Orlando Sentinel.
All I have to say is if I walk in and I see Brandon using a stick as toilet paper, I've got some questions. Well,
yeah, details. 12 is napkins. So Bucky using napkins. Well, David the Chamberlain got 7, so he could probably use the Unearthed Arcana, a.k.a. the book that shall not be named, as his toilet paper, right? From our perspective.
That's right.
John got
I'm glad you pointed that. That's what I'm going to. After I'm done with toilet paper, I'm heading to. That's exactly what I'm heading to.
The book, the paper that shall not be named. Yeah. John got 15. You got single ply. You got that work toilet paper that you find. This kind of, you have to use like half a roll to get the job done. 13, tissues, which again, is not too bad. 20, you and I, Robert, got fancy named TP. So I'm guessing it's, Charmin Ultra Pro kind of thing, which is awesome. Menyon, you're using grass. So I guess maybe, at least it's not a bonsai tree or something. So, and 11, paper towels, which you should not flush into the toilet. So I guess you hold on to them at that point. Shannon got tissues for 13. Brian got a 4. Ooh, crunchy leaves.
You can use them to make tea later.
Yeah, that's right. Yummy.
Build up the antibodies.
Oh, that's right. That's how you get. That's why you just gotta swim in filth and make tea out of crunchy leaves and poop. That's up.
You know what kind of humor this is?
It's bathroom.
Toilet humor.
That's his toilet humor. Well, and there's your smoking dung. You take the leaves
That's right.
and you cast protection from evil. There you go. Or correction from good.
Right. That's right. You can use your leaves. Just burn the leaves.
So there you go, folks. This is from Instagram. I'll post this up there. Xylery looks like the person who put it up there. So well done. But yeah, that's what's great about first edition. You just tell people roll, and then you can figure out what they get for it. So, all right. The last thing we have before we start the trial is Dragon 35. For those reading at home, we're celebrating 1980. That's right. Ozzy smoked one of those bat dung joints. We're doing Dragon 35 because we're celebrating 1980 here in the on Grog Talk, and so this is issue 35, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, what's your thoughts about it? Initial thoughts.
Okay. It was okay. I thought the standout was Gary's. I mean, typically if Gary writes something, we're all going to pay attention. I thought the standout for me was Gary's Sorcerer's Scroll article. How about you? Was there a standout for you?
Well, yeah. Let people know, if you go to anarchive.com, if you want to look at a PDF just to follow along. We always, of course, recommend if you can get the original, but I don't have the original here. What's interesting, the cover is actually from October, and there's a reference. You always try to remember back then. This was the invasion of Afghanistan just happened, and why they used this as an October art, and then this was in March is beyond me, but it is very interesting that you have these demonic snowmen with machine guns moving towards Russian guards. I don't understand this. It almost looks like a heavy metal, from the movie Heavy Metal, it should be part of.
Well, yeah, and you probably know, right? They write that, so this was commissioned in late fall '79, so we're not making any political statements or commentary, but the kid does look a little Afghani.
Yeah.
So that sounds to me like it was.
That was a political
intention. So Dragon's going political.
All right. It's pretty interesting.
Okay.
So I think my one is the errata. Because now I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because in the past we've said polyhedron is official, but is the official errata in Dragon official, or is it not official?
Oh, I would think it is. Well, so we know that that Sage Advice is not. I think absolutely, don't you think?
I would say so, but I know in the past you've argued that only polyhedron is canonical, but...
Well, what's interesting about it is that, I mean, we're going to get into now a discussion of what is law, right? So, which is,
Hold on.
So polyhedron. So why is polyhedron canon? Because it says it is. So I mean.
Well, that's us. I mean, we have the same thing. Our rule is law because we say so. I mean.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Isn't there a Latin word for that? The king's got, divine. It's almost divine right. We say so, and thus it's true.
Because it wasn't. I don't think polyhedron was not Gary, right? Polyhedron was, other luminaries. Yeah. It was TSR, of course, and they said it's official. And my understanding is they may have said it's official, in part to make people want it, right? If it's, and then I've just seen someone say that. I don't know if that's true.
Right.
But so, yes, no, I would say this is official. Now, what's interesting about it is a lot of these changes, I believe, were made, and I looked up some of these changes in the copies I have, and it's weird. Some were made, and others weren't made. Like I've got a player's handbook, which is 1978, which has some of these changes, but it didn't have the change on the dexterity table. If you look at the dexterity table,
are we going to that?
Well, I didn't mean we can go. I mean, we're obviously certainly not going to go through each one. I just sort of wanted to point out that when I looked up in my book, I noticed that there were some changes that had been made and some hadn't, which I didn't. I was confused by that. I didn't understand, because you think either they were all made or they all weren't made. But
correct.
I don't know. Maybe they caught some. So,
well, that's on page 4, and I agree with you. I've always considered the rulings. I mean, it says official, which means it would be fixed. And even the Sage Advice, it was more informed decisions than your normal thing would make. So if it wasn't canonical, at least it was more informed. But
I would consider persuasive authority.
Yeah, okay. Oh, very good. Persuasive authority. I like that. I'm going to write that down.
Right. So in other words, yeah, I mean, I think it's entitled to deference unless you believe it is clearly incorrect. This is fascinating.
This is good. And I'm not paying for this like your students are. I'm getting this for free.
All right. So that's all right.
Can you quote some case law related to this?
Well, I think, of course, Asmodeus versus Jublix.
Right.
I think, right, of course, from the third age, 247
Yep.
is,
Oh, now you're just
where I
making
think
stuff up.
the High Court of Greyhawk held that, that sage advice is simply persuasive, not binding. Because Asmodeus, of course, was trying to argue it was binding, and, because it was good for his case.
Prima facie, it was clearly. I mean, but
Prima facie, res ipsa loquitur, all those.
That's right. Dominus sequitur.
Ex post facto.
That's right. Mens rea. What are we trying to get out of here? Excellent.
There was an episode of Seinfeld, wasn't there, where Jerry was arguing, I think, at the counter about the reservation, and he's like, well, I think the case of Smith versus, he's just making up these cases.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Well, I got to tell you, the errata's pretty boring.
I apologize, but there's an amicus brief that people want to submit for Asmodeus right now, so we'll have to wait for that as well. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, look, the reality is that unless you're going to go through and make all these changes, it's pretty boring, the errata, isn't it? I mean, it's not. Is it fun reading?
No.
No.
No, but it is interesting. Like I said, some of the things that have been contentious, they do resolve. Like, well, not contentious. People have had questions about the wisdom for, bonuses for druids is clarified here. The dexterity for half-orcs is clarified here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Where's the... oh, that's right. 11b. Thank you, because I thought that was a sage advice. That's right. They say wisdom table 2, that's a big one, should be changed to read adjustments for clerics and druids. So that actually is, okay, that's officially changed. Thank you. Good catch.
Right. It talks about aging, which we talked about before, and...
oh, can I ask you... okay, wait, right underneath the wisdom table, I think they made a mistake. They say dexterity table 1, strike 14 is max dexterity for a half, or...
Exactly.
17... oh, I see. I should read... oh, okay, I see. So... it had said 14 was the max dexterity for right. And okay, no, that's right. So yeah, they can obviously go up to 17.
Right.
Okay.
So we're talking about the player's handbook. So if this is, since you're all imprisoned in your house, what a fun little game. You can pull up Dragon 35 and see if your version of the player's handbook or monster manual or DMG is not correct. So if you look in this case, page 11, you will see on chart dexterity table 1, it says 14 maximum dexterity for half-orc character. What they're saying here is delete that, should be stricken, and above ability score 17 should read maximum dexterity for dwarf or half-orc character.
Mine is incorrect. Is yours incorrect?
Mine is incorrect as well.
So we need to, and maybe what we can do, this would be a great podcast, we could go through and handwrite and pencil all those changes.
Right.
To our players.
I think we should do that for next week. So that would be super. Everyone, so look forward to that. Us penciling and flipping.
It sounds like detention.
That's right. Penciling and flipping.
Okay. Was there any other interesting gaffes?
Well, and again, we always played it by character race table 3, which showed that half orcs could have 17. I think.
Yeah, we did too. Yeah, most people I think forget about the fact that there's very useful information on the attribute tables. But you're right. You better double check it. But, because somewhere there is one about like a half-elf magic user has like a minimum intelligence or something like that. It's weird, right? I'm telling you, there's weird stuff going on if you look at this.
Right.
But I don't know. But now I can't find it. No one wants to wait while I...
While you turn and flip? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably actually in the half-elf thing, but whatever.
All right. So... that's interesting. And again, there's a couple that were relevant. Then our dear friend Alan Hammock, who had the lighter side, he actually put typos in. He was, as if you remember our interview with him, he talked about the process of making the DMG and the effort that it took to make it as good as it is, in spite of the fact that it has some inconsistencies. But typos, it doesn't have that many. I mean, if you look at it, it's a much larger book, but it's not too bad as far as inconsistencies and errors. So he came up with some mighty miscellaneous magic typos, like the Ring of Three Witches, which is rather self-explanatory, and the Wand of Lightning, which I like. That's also good. So they're interesting. There's a lot of... go ahead.
I just want to mention on that, because now, I wish I had seen that. I probably did see it and didn't pay enough attention to it before our interview with Alan. But, because I'd asked him if his role was substantive or was it more just, for grammar and things like that. And he pointed out, well, no, it was substantive.
Right.
Make sure things made sense. And here, this confirms it, of course, that they obviously, when editing the DMG, they were spending a lot of time, right? He says here, making sure, debating whether this magic item was more powerful than that one, and should we make this one more powerful? So that's very interesting, right? So you got all these guys sitting around. I can't remember if there were any. I said guys. I don't mean to be sexist. I can't remember if there's any women that were involved in the editing of the DMG or not.
You're not here for 2 weeks, and you look at how you've reverted back. It's sad. Sad.
It is sad. But but so they were obviously debating things about the magic items. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Right. And so keep moving forward. We have the sage advice, right? And there's the famous one we just were talking about. Can a magic user cast spells while holding a dagger, staff, or wand? What are you doing to your you looks like you're oscillating your laptop. Either that or
I'm sorry. I'm scrolling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's when you're doing that, your whole thing is shaking. It's like you're
like an earthquake.
Right. You're having an earthquake while this is happening. People are throwing up online. They're getting nauseous. So it's okay.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
So, well, no. Oh, you know what I can do? I can do this. Am I shaking now?
No, that's good.
Okay, so I shouldn't touch because I'm touching the screen.
Yeah, don't do that.
So if I recall, and I wish maybe people in the chat know, but I could have sworn that Gary was upset with Gene Wells' comment that you could hold a weapon and cast a spell.
Right.
It made sense to me that what she said was, she qualifies it, right? Doesn't she say, assuming that
Nope.
you can do it?
Well, it says, so what we're talking about, question. This is under sage advice. Can a magic user cast spells while holding a dagger, staff, or wand in one hand? Answer, yes, provided that he has two hands and the free one is able to fulfill the somatic requirements. So what I find interesting is that you still have to have two hands regardless. So,
I love that to me is typical Gene. I think Gene Wells is very funny.
Yeah.
That to me is classic Gene Wells with that comment.
Yeah, you still have to have two hands even though one is occupied, as long as the other one can do that. So I guess you could do. I mean, it's very classical. Even if you look at the logo from TSR, it's got the wizard, right? He's got the wand in one hand and he's got the other. So, but it kind of infers that if you lose a hand, you can't cast spells.
Well, you can. You just can't hold a dagger, right?
No, what it says is answer yes, providing that he has two hands.
And the free, but the question is, can a magic user cast spells while holding a dagger?
Right.
So if I only have one hand and I'm holding a dagger, staff, or wand, I can't cast the spell because I don't have one. Okay. She seems to be suggesting that certain somatic requirements could just be one-handed.
Right. Basically, that's correct. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, and again, I wish I could find it. I think Gary took issue with that. And if Gary, let's face it, if Gary takes issue with it, then that's pretty much canon. That you're supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
Right? Not that.
Well, and like some of the people are saying, burning hands. It's not burning hand. It's burning hands. You get two.
What about a touch spell?
Well, I guess you could use one.
Okay.
That's also also where the other person's hand is. If you're touching with one, where's the other hand? That's the question.
I mean, I guess the good news is she just asks if holding it, so not using it. No one's going to allow you to attack and cast.
No,
right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I just find that interesting.
Right.
Also, it clears up if you're being attacked, you can't shoot. Can you shoot arrows at someone attacking you in hand-to-hand combat? The short answer is no. In fact, that's literally what she says.
Yeah, very short. No.
No, you can't. So.
Right.
So there's a few other ones, and again, but and the other one, can thieves be chaotic good? And she says thieves can only be neutral or evil, but not good.
I think she's going to, if I recall correctly, I think she's going to correct this. We'll see.
Okay.
I think she's going to correct this in a later sage advice because she forgets about neutral good.
But right now, I'm telling all my players, don't give me your neutral good nonsense. You're either neutral or evil.
James's position is, just like you say, a neutral cleric is a druid. You say a good thief is a monk.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
You're not letting them go neutral. Why? You're not letting them go neutral good?
Because Gene Wells said if I was my 11 or 12-year-old self back then, I would say this is in the Dragon magazine. This is as legitimate as the DMG. I may be wrong.
But it actually says it. But it actually says it in the player's handbook that you can be neutral good.
But this is later. We're using that persuasive authority, like you said. And, the things stack up, right? You've got the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, DMG. This is in order of newness, the DMG should supersede the other ones because it's a newer material, correct?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I think some of the errata was to make it consistent, right? The DMG and the Player's Handbook, if I recall correctly. Like the giant strength. Giant strength was greater in the Player's Hand. Oh, I'm sorry, the Monster Manual. Yeah. The Monster Manual, the giant strength was greater than it was later, and so that had to be cleaned up. Yeah, no, I don't know. No, I dissent.
Okay.
No, I dissent because it's not binding.
Not binding.
She's just wrong. Okay. She's just wrong.
But you're looking at that from 2020. But in 1980, if you were to see this in Dragon Magazine, you would say no?
I don't have the Player's Handbook?
You do, but this is newer than the Player's Handbook.
No, I understood I'm sure I understood the difference between sage advice and I think I would be like Gene Wells. Look, weren't we all obnoxious? We still are. We're gamers. Weren't we like Gene Wells is wrong? Okay. Has she talked to Gary? What does Gary say?
Well, I assume they do. Again, I assume there's like a council meeting where they pulled all these out and laid it out.
You heard. Didn't we ask Alan what the council meeting was? It was someone sticking their head in someone's door.
That's right, exactly. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, I agree.
So how did this go down? So Gene Wells sticks her head in Alan Hammock's door and goes, "Hey, Alan, can thieves be good? Of course they can't be good. Thanks."
Right.
And she writes it.
Right.
That was it?
Yeah, you're probably right, but that's why this is very confusing. Imagine month after month, something you've been playing for years, and all of a sudden someone writes it in a magazine. You have to change the game.
Yeah. She's going to correct it sometime.
Well, see, but you don't know that.
She's the one. Didn't she send a mule into a dungeon or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the one that doesn't go around corners? One of them doesn't go around corners.
Ponies. I guess. Okay. I don't remember. All right, let's keep going.
All right.
Angels, I didn't read it. I didn't care. Looks good, but...
Oh, well, yeah. Well, technically the question was, can they be chaotic good? Well, the answer to that was clearly no. All right. Angels was interesting. I mean, I didn't read it a lot. It is interesting that we don't have angels.
Right. They have devils and demons, but they don't have angels.
Right. Okay.
I think back then, the idea of trying to attack angels was a little. If you're worried about the satanic panic before, I just killed the archangel Michael. That's probably not, because you're getting really close to fighting Jesus at that point.
Well, they're supposed to help you.
Yeah, but if you're good, if you're evil, then
against the angels.
Right, against the angels. An assassin in the seven heavens or whatever it is.
Right. Well, what I thought was interesting is that we've got these dastardly deeds and devious devices. So even before Grimm's Tooth, right, which is quite famous, which I think was 1981, Flying Buffalo, is that people were already, in 1980, people are already designing deadly traps, right? I see something, lava pipes, moving walls, ceiling grid. It doesn't sound good.
This sounds to me like someone was in geometry and they weren't paying attention. They were designing lava traps because they were more interested. I mean, some of these are ridiculous, like the eighth wonder of the world here that they're trying to build. But it's good. I think the simplest pit trap is always the best, or the spear trap.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of Grimtooth. I think Vic Dorso is.
Yeah.
They're just, I don't know. They're like ways to kill characters.
Yeah, well, that's why he likes it.
So we have the rankings.
We skipped giants, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're giants from literature, right? They're creatures from books, right? So I guess if you're not a fan of the book, you're not probably doing much with those, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because I was moving to rank. Bob Blake, we got to find that guy. He's first place.
Yeah, that's
Like-
it. This is the current character rate, current player ratings. We talked to Alan Hammock, who in the last tournament ranked higher than Gary Gygax, which he was one higher.
Gary only has 32 points here.
Right. So back in the day, imagine you could be ranked as a D&D player. That's what this is based on the tournaments.
You can win at D&D.
He's crushing everywhere.
That's right. Yeah, you got one guy who's doing great, but Gary Gygax, the person who wrote the game, is what, like 19th or 20th place here.
Yeah.
How can that be? Tim Cass, the editor, he's worse. That makes sense. Dave.
No, I'll tell you how it is. You know how it happens? Everyone else is playing it wrong.
Right. That's right. Have you read my books?
Right? 10 points for that? What?
And well, to your point, if I would have read Gene Wells' thing and see that she's only got 4 points, I probably would have said, you're right.
Well,
she doesn't have no idea what she's talking about.
She thinks thieves can be, thieves. She thinks you can't have a good thief.
Right, exactly.
I'm surprised. Yeah, that's rough. Ernie,
yeah, he's only
4.
a few better. It's not very
Yeah.
good.
John Eric Holmes there. Jim Ward, we'll have to ask Jim. He was ahead. So Jim Ward is 48.
Right. He's got
Compared to
48
Garrison.
points, yeah. Most recent finish, 1 out of 80. I don't know, not 8 out of 79. So then if you go Masters 3, the search for the Armadillo Amulet. Okay. Let's look at the rankings there. Gary Gygax, 47.
Wait, stop.
These scores
How
don't
can-
make any sense.
No, stop. How can you say the search for the Armadillo Amulet and just move on?
Why not?
What is this? Is this a module? Can we find it? I need to look on eBay.
That's
I've
right.
never heard of this thing. The search for the Armadillo Amulet.
Yeah.
The tournament was a little different. It was played as a one-on-one event.
Ooh,
Oh.
I didn't read that. That's cool.
Identical character and access to wide variety of magic. Then the players were sent on a mission to locate a strange object called the Armadillo Amulet, which was hidden in the castle of an evil high priest. Oh, the old EHP.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I gotta Google the search there. Or you can. I'll handle that.
3
I'm searching
hours later. Okay, so
the
scoring was
search.
scoring was held in a negative manner, with the lowest score winning. So, in addition to receiving points for magic items selected, the players were given points for those items that they failed to return intact. So, if that's the case, the score, Gary Gygax and Ernie and Gene Wells, she came in dead last in this out of 50.
Gene Wells came in last in the search for the Armadillo
That's
Amulet.
right. That's right.
Okay, you ready for this? I typed in search. I typed in search for the Armadillo Amulet. Typing in search for doesn't help things. Most of my hits were on Etsy.
Armadillo Amulet?
Of course. Yeah, I'm searching for. I'm gonna have to put that in quotes.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of Etsy amulets.
We need to buy one and put it here. People figure out what that means. But look at this. It's basically, well, what is wonderful is that Christine Bailey from Illinois is the #1, came in first.
Whoa, we got to find her to
Right.
talk about this search.
Right. How does she feel that she beat all the luminaries in TSR land? Alan Hammock didn't do so well either.
Dragon 35 is coming up.
Yeah, that's good.
Wait, Star Product. Okay, hold on.
And we're flipping and we're waiting.
We're clicking.
We're clicking. Don
clicking.
Turnbull, he from England, for our friends, he came in 35th. That's pretty bad. Some of these luminaries are horrible at this game.
All right, I don't know. I'm going to give it the search for now, but this is fascinating. All right.
Yeah. So look, that's, yeah. But consistently, Gary, whose name is on every book of this, 47th, 22nd. I don't understand that. How could, who is DMing him in this? Who's the DM?
You know, it'd be great. So when because he's starting to get interviewed around these times, right? Because 1980 D&D is exploding. It would be great if he went on like Tom Snyder, which he did, or some. And Tom Snyder was like, "What do you have to say for yourself with your 32-point total?"
Right. You wrote the game.
Bob Bledsaw, Judges Guild, only 4 points.
Yeah, they suck. Terrible.
Yeah.
But if I was DMing Gary, it would be like, yeah, I cast Mending. Oh, that's perfect. Congratulations. That's awesome. Good job. He would be I would think it'd be more like the dear leader. He gets to win everything. Yay, he won again. So I don't.
That works, Gary.
That's right. Of course that works.
Perfect. Mending. You're brilliant.
That's right.
Yes. And everyone applauds.
So they all clap. And no one stops. They keep clapping until they get tired.
Right, until he leaves.
So it is. Yeah. I don't understand how who's telling him he's wrong? I cast mending.
We need to remember some of these questions for Jim Ward.
Right, exactly. This is amazing.
We know people that we can ask about this. All right, perfect.
All right, let's see. Minoan Legends, didn't read it, even though I'm sort of Greek.
It's not like you would read it back in the day, right?
Oh, you're doing the shaking again.
Sorry. That's true.
Gosh.
Back to errata.
Yeah, more errata. Flipping, scrolling. Yeah. And there's a lot in the monster manual. Who cares? I mean, I guess it's good that people figured this out.
Yeah.
David pointed out that surprise is even more confusing now that they put the errata.
Oh, thank you. Can we go to the surprise errata?
Yes.
Because this is stunning to me that this is errata. So I'm on page 34 of Dragon Magazine, and there is on the bottom right, page 62. I'm telling you, and people can debate this if they want. You need errata for this errata.
It's double errata.
You need a double errata. Go to the bottom two, right?
Right.
Where the party rolls a 1 and the monster rolls a 2. It should not be party surprise.
Right.
It should be monster surprise because you are surprised by the number of segments.
Correct.
And the last one, and it bothers me. I've actually did a dragon's foot, right? Where else? If you type in like page 62, DMG, surprise, dragon's foot, I think you will see a Dan Gormansky posting about this. I mean, if someone can convince me...
Does someone threaten to punch you in the face? Or
that was a different thread.
Oh,
that was laying to that thread. And yeah, they said if I was their DM, they would have punched me in the nose.
Right.
So I'm happy to be convinced that I'm wrong about this being wrong. Isn't that wrong, James?
I believe it's wrong. You've convinced me it's wrong.
Right, and I'll tell you what
I didn't care back in the day, but now I do, so it's wrong.
Well, people get confused, in my opinion, and look, Polyhedron actually got it wrong too, so this is going to be a matter, if we ever do a surprise show, we'll have a lively debate on
That's
this.
what we would call it, the surprise show.
The surprise show.
Yeah.
Surprise, right?
You're surprised we spent 2 hours talking about surprise.
People think, right, and we can have this debate, because I think that some of our listeners may play it this way too, right? So a lot of people play it, because I think on the bottom of page 61, it talks about surprise difference, and it has like a 4-to-1 is a 3-segment surprise difference. So a lot of people play it that no matter what your surprise roll is, you do the difference as long as one party is surprised. I take the position that it is only if both parties' rolls are indicating surprise that you do the difference. So you could have a 4, right? Because you could have a monster that surprises on a 1 and 4.
Right.
So I think, number one, that's the first thing that causes confusion. But I just think that I think that's wrong. I mean, I don't know. I like to get people's thoughts on that. I know David Thompson brought it up, but I think it's wrong.
Well, but that's I like your idea, but the way it's written, and what David's saying the same thing, which is, but it doesn't make sense based on if they're both surprised, you subtract it, because the part that makes it weird is that if you are surprised, the higher number is worse.
I understand that, because lower starts worse, right? Because a 1 or a 2 is typically a surprise, so lower starts worse, and then all of a sudden the higher lower is worse.
The higher lower, that's right.
Right.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, but you know what? But once you understand it, then that's true with everything. Once you understand it, it makes sense. Is that once you say it's the number of surprise segments, what Gary could have done is do it inversely, but then it gets very hard, right? It could have been like a 1 is a 2 and a 2 is a 1. Once you say it is the amount of segments that you are surprised, which we know is a very nasty rule, because if you were surprised on a 1 and 4, right, what is like giant toads or something like this thing, right? You roll a 4, you're surprised for 4 segments. So you're surprised if you roll a 2, you're surprised for 2 segments. So a 2, if you are surprised, a higher roll is actually worse, and that's
correct.
Right. And so that's why I think that's wrong there. I think the 1 and the 2, it should be switched around on there.
Yes, I agree with you, but that's not how it's written, and then the errata is still written the wrong way. It's double.
Yeah, I
what?
would like to know what the original is. Mine is fixed.
Yes.
So I don't know what the original DMG said. It'd be interesting to know what the original DMG was. But I'm stunned.
We may have to ask someone who has old school first edition, printing of that.
Right.
What it
Right.
says. Okay.
Right. Okay.
But surprise is fun. It's awesome. All right, moving on. They got about swords, Mesa Disruption. No, it's okay. Stias, use your mouse or whatever you got.
I got it on there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and some things were new, like encumbrance. Apparently, it became an appendix. That was new that they added.
Of standard items? Oh yeah, I guess so.
I think they said that was new. Some of the stuff was new appendices to the DMG, so it wasn't errors. I think just some of it didn't have it.
Oh, I'd be curious to see an original one because since I've had one, I don't know what printing this is. It's always had an encumbrance table. So I'm looking. This is revised edition, December 1979. So I don't know. It doesn't say what printing it is.
Where do you? Yeah, I don't know either.
It's where the ISBN is on the thing with the unicorn.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm the same thing. December 1979.
So I don't know if it has, like in the player's handbook, it talks about the printing.
Right.
The specific printing.
So this is obviously that's wasted. People will know. People will tell you, right? I mean, you now know. Look at your surprise table.
Right. If it's jacked up, I'd like to see the original. Well, I'm sure it's online somewhere. Okay, keep it moving on.
Everything has a price.
Angels, exactly. A lot of Traveler stuff. Again, I'd love to play Traveler, but and then there's the Len Lakofka did his training thing, which I love Len, but it was a lot.
It's a lot. Okay, it would be fun to have Len on because what I'd like to know is how much of first edition by the book was Len playing. So Len has a lot of different, right? I mean, a lot of his articles are detailed and changes. And changes is a different experience. So it is interesting. I mean, are these things that Len disagreed with Gary? Because we know Len was reviewing. He was one of the few outside reviewers, not TSR employees, who was reviewing the DMG as is being written. And it'd be interesting to know, like, how did Len have a lot of, are these Len's disagreements? Like, Gary, you shouldn't do experience the way you're doing it.
Yeah,
and Gary's like, yeah,
Yeah, it sucks. Here, this is how I should do it. And it's very complicated, but we've talked about experience being a problem in that if you play it as written, your party will very not have the money they need to train. Even if they're exceptional, 1,500 gold pieces, most of them will not have the money to train when they have the experience points.
Right.
And then you get this kind of constant, and I get the idea because you're wanting not to people have a bunch of money and doing stupid things, but it's taken to the extreme.
I will tell you, I do dislike the experience. That when I was running the group with a campaign as opposed to one-offs, I hated keeping track of experience. Remember, we'd sit there, the game was done, we're all tired.
Right.
It's like 11 o'clock, and we're like, and you were always nice because you would stay and help with that. But it's a drag because the adventure's done, and you sit there for like 45 minutes. What did we kill? How many? And you're flipping through the adventure. It's a pain. Right. I hated it.
And nothing says fantasy fun and adventure like accounting and Excel spreadsheets.
Right?
That's what I signed up for.
Right? All to at the end of it be like, oh yeah, you don't have enough XP.
And when we did our episode where Pixie and Glades, you're like, I barely survived. How much experience? Oh, you see, you fought 2 hobgoblins. That's 28 experience points.
Exactly.
One of my guys almost got killed. Well, and your multi-class, divide that by 2. So you got 14.
Well, I actually don't have a problem with any of that. I just didn't like I didn't have the problem with the slow level.
Progression?
Like, who was it? We had somebody on recently who said that it took them like years to be, and they only went up a couple levels.
Right.
I can't remember who that was. Somebody was really tough. So,
which is good. I mean, because once you get the game becomes more problematic the higher level you get because and it makes it harder for the DM. I think there's some DMs who do it well. I do it okay, but it's always it's much more hard. It takes a lot of work to challenge the players without killing them.
Right.
As I found out with the Giants. Or you have to really know your module inside and out like Vic does and some of that.
right.
Okay. Well, very good. I think it is time. Go ahead.
Wait. Oh, we didn't talk about. I want to talk quick. It's the Sorcerer's Scroll by Gary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say real quick that was fascinating because I don't know if you noticed there, they said that Gary in the Sorcerer's Scroll talks about the writing of the Holmes Basic edition.
Oh, okay.
And he talks about how there was this discussion as to whether or not Holmes Basic should direct players essentially be a gateway to OD&D, or should it be a gateway to AD&D? And it sounds like, well, I know I say sounds like, Gary says it. He felt OD&D was a mess. I mean, and because they wrote it for insiders, people that they assumed understood wargaming, and they did it fast. But he considered it, basically a mess. And so they didn't want to send people they decided at the end not to send people to OD&D, which was viewed as more sort of, because the problem was that Holmes Basic was very open-ended. I mean, Gary talks about this, where he says that Holmes Basic is kind of open-ended, not a lot of rules, a lot of flexibility for the DM, whereas AD&D is much more strict on the rules that you have to follow. And, so it would make sense to send them to OD&D, which had that similar sort of flavor, but they thought it was a mess. So they decided to send them to AD&D. And so hence what you got, as you may have noticed, if anyone who's played Holmes Basic, is you have a bunch of references that were thrown in at the end to, you'll see more of this in AD&D. You want to go beyond third level, play AD&D. But the problem is, Holmes Basic and AD&D are very different.
Yeah.
And, this idea that you'd go from Holmes Basic to AD&D, I don't know. I think it clunked. And I think his article, we now have insight into why it clunked, because they just sort of figured it was better to send people to AD&D.
Well, and it's also the thing of the future. And, we also know in hindsight that AD&D is his game. D&D is Dave Arneson in his game combined, and he's trying to move past it. This is his game now, and he doesn't say it in the article, but we know that from other things that he was trying to separate and make it his. And so, almost Machiavellian, it's to cleave himself from the old way and come up with his version of it. You clearly go from a 60-page thing to this, where you got a bunch of rules. This is clearly a much more detailed and prescriptive rule set.
And it is interesting because he talks about how they're going to now start focusing on Basic. I assume, because they're going to be coming out with, I can't remember which one. I think the Menser Basic, I believe, came out before Moldvay and Cook, I believe.
Moldvay is first.
Okay, I'm sorry, Moldvay. Because you started with Moldvay, right?
That's right.
So Moldvay talks about how they're going to really be shifting to an emphasis on Moldvay. And it is interesting because I guess, there is sort of a desire for a lot of players out there to have a more flexible style of play. And so Basic, I think Basic, that word Basic, like you talked about this, where, it's advanced, so we want to be advanced.
Right.
Which I think is unfortunate, right? Because in some respects, I wonder. I've never played Moldvay Basic, but I wonder if Moldvay allows for a much more sort of open, flexible, a kind of thing that I might enjoy. So I just don't know. I haven't played it.
Yes, and
okay.
Yes. I think.
Yeah.
Well, and what you've also listening to other podcasts, there is the backroom deals that are going on. Because again, this is a business, and I was listening to some about Empire of the Petal Throne on another podcast, Save for Half. And basically, TSR would make these deals with folks, and they would make them really good for them, and they realize, the author's going to make more money than us. We're not making a whole lot of money. They would just abandon it. They wouldn't spend any effort. And whether it was Holmes, anything going forward, they would try to change the deals. And so there may have been part of that as well, that, hey, we want to make more money. It's kind of like your initial contract with the record deal is bad. Now I want to do my own contract and take control of this thing. So, but I agree with you. For me, looking back, we wanted to play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We didn't want to play Basic. We played it because it came with a module and it came with everything you needed. But we use the advanced rules and grafted them onto the basic. Now looking back, I like that version better because it's not as prescriptive and you can do more things. And with a 60-page book, you can play D&D.
Well, and what's interesting, I don't know if you noticed where he said that Holmes Basic was selling amazingly well at this time. So It's March 1980. And if you think about it, because if the kid says, Mom, I want to play Dungeons & Dragons, well, what you're going to probably buy, if it's a 12-year-old kid, you're probably going to buy the basic because it's all right there. You're going to buy the basic.
That's right.
You're not going to buy these 3 books,
exactly. With demon on it.
Exactly.
Demon on it.
Right.
Monsters on it.
Right. I'd rather just, right. It's not as bad as the cover of Holmes Basic. Yeah.
So Holmes Basic is dragons fighting, fantasy.
No Jubilex in there.
Nope, no Jubilex. No half-naked women.
Right.
Satanic women who are going to take, here's my original basic Moldvay. I use twist ties to keep it together.
Is that 81? So that's coming out soon. So it's March 1980 now. And there's a lot of Greyhawk discussion.
This is a first printing, January 1981.
Wow. So we're very soon.
That's the one you had back then.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's Tim Cook, Moldvay and Tim Cook?
Yes.
So this is very soon. So so they're working on this quite a bit right now. And I tell you, what I loved about that was I loved the artwork.
Yeah.
It's Errol Otis, right? I believe. I love the artwork.
Hold on. Hey, Jonathan, welcome. You have been issued a title. Look in the chat and you'll see your title. Congratulations.
Oh, so that is the official. I've seen that. I mean, we probably were segueing too much here. Not segueing, we're digressing.
Here's an official character sheet, the green ones back in the day. Look at that. So anyway, we're supposed to talk about the book that shall not be named.
Wait, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Do you remember with the module? Did that come with In Search of the Unknown or Borderlands? What did that come with?
It came with Borderlands. It came with
Borderlands.
Here's the module that it came with. The original thing. I don't have the box anymore. It got destroyed. But
okay, I've got Gary in the Sorcerer's Scroll article. Gary says that he is working on a new adventure for the basic set. I think he may even said to be included with the basic set. Well, my understanding is Keep on the Borderlands was published in December 1979. If you believe Wikipedia, that's what it says.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was Keep on the Borderlands, but I don't know what he was talking about then. So.
But that's the same thing they did. They replaced, because B1, I guess, was a better royalty for, I forgot who wrote B1, Search of the Unknown. That's why he wanted to rewrite it, so he would make more money, or the TSR would make more money from that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Because same thing, because for a while you could get Holmes, Basic, and Moldvay, but they were pushing Moldvay, which again, I've read both. I didn't start with Holmes, so I don't have that nostalgia for it. For me, the nostalgia is with Moldvay Basic, and if you wanted to play D&D, this is the rules to start with. It's pretty simple.
I'm very lukewarm. Can you be very lukewarm?
You are. You're super lukewarm.
I'm super lukewarm on Holmes Basic. The best thing that came out of Holmes Basic without question is, of course, the sample dungeon. Right. The Tower of Xenopus. That's in my top 5 on adventures. But the rules themselves, meh.
Right. Well, it's a bridge between OD&D, which it assumes a lot of things, and AD&D, which is still hard to get your head around. It doesn't solve the basic problem is, I have no idea what this game is about. Help me with that. And I think Menser, in some ways, helps it even further with the solo adventure, where you can kind of see that. But you could certainly figure out how to do it with this. It was relatively easy, and it had enough to move forward. So anyway, that's, and Bargle, that's right, from Xenopus. Are we ready? Are we ready to start the... Carlos, Vic, you're all ready to jump on the pixelated event? Let's start this. Anyway, for those who don't know, we have an auspicious group here to discuss the book that shall not be named. Starting with those on the screen to our upper left, we have Carlos Lysing from Castle Entertainment. Actually, that's perfect.
Carlos.
That's actually perfect, Carlos, because it's blurred out. So that's
Here's the difference between me and Carlos. I literally printed out and taped. I cut it out and taped pixelation that I found online. He actually has pixelation or whatever, blurring. He cast a blur spell.
I did. One might say I'm a better gnome illusionist than you.
Very good, Carlos.
That doesn't say much based on.
We gotta hire Carlos.
So Carlos is before we continue. Carlos is from Castle Entertainment. He is also a featured DM at GROGTALK 2019 and will be a featured DM at GROGTALK 2020. He wrote the featured module from last year, and we're planning to do it this year. So Carlos, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
And then we have Vic Dorso, who is also a featured DM from GROGTALK 2019. He's already booked his tickets for 2020. Coronavirus be damned. And he's also the proud Kickstarter of his module, Keep It Blood Red Falls, which you can find on Kickstarter. Welcome, Vic.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, so, and of course, Dan and I are here. And so for those who've been with our show, who are now have been imprisoned in house arrest, in quarantine for how many years? For the last year, and you're catching up on our show, you know that we have decided that our show is focused on, we call AD&D First Edition 1.0. And so 1.0 is, our rule is anything before April of 1985. And the reason is because in May of 1985, if I remember correctly, the book that shall not be named was published. So Carlos and Vic are good friends of the show. They actually played past when we did. And so for them, this book is part of Dungeons and Dragons. So so I think the goal, of course, is for us to discuss the pros and cons and let the jury of the Grog Empire make their determination of how to leverage it. So for the prosecution, it will be Dan and myself, and then for the defense, it will be Vic and Carlos. So
before we begin proceedings, Counselor Dorso and I would like to move that the charges against Unearthed Arcana be dismissed before trial.
What is the basis of that?
Yeah, what's the ground?
What's the ground on that?
The grounds are, first of all, that you're operating with an incomplete copy of Unearthed Arcana to begin with.
What specifically?
Oh, you mean you mean because the pages fell out?
Correct.
Or were never published.
Wait, are you being serious? Are there different? There's only one edition of Unearthed, right?
There is only one edition of Unearthed Arcana.
Right there. This is the complete one. The one you have is not complete.
So
what's the difference?
Go ahead.
That would be correct. So we would like to move that the charges be dismissed out of hand before even if this goes to trial.
Well, since Dan is our most legal authority, I would like to put a counter argument that my version of Unearthed Arcana has the errata, which was added after the fact, and I will show that to all those in play. There is the errata on each page. So I do have all the information. So my arguments will be made from the book completed, even though this is an argument why this book is terrible, in that there's so many rules that it needed a Dragon magazine to fix all of it.
In that case, then we would like to have Dan's testimonial dismissed from the case.
Well,
right.
Go ahead. We'll consider that.
We need to go back and say that the first edition player's handbook, the Dungeon Master Guide, and the Monster Manual are also incomplete because you pointed it out just now in Dragon Magazine 35 that they were not correct either.
Well, that's why we're using all of them. We're fine. And through osmosis, this book has been here for the length of the show. He has had the opportunity to peruse it. He's just using his other book just to have it there. So while we appreciate it, go ahead.
And I believe, are you referring to Dragon Magazine 103 and the errata where it was published in, I believe?
Yes.
Because I have looked at Dragon Magazine 103 with the errata, so I can tell you that there's nothing in the errata that in any way changes my opinion on the usefulness of the book that shall not be named. So I'm happy to argue this with the errata included.
Okay. And James, by the way, we were addressing the judge, not you.
Oh, well, well,
Jubal, Jubilex?
sorry.
Judge Jubilex.
What
It's
was
like
Jubilex?
Judge Judy, only a little different.
Judge Jubilex. Yeah, we should
Really
have
not that much different, though.
yeah, we should have like a little small claims show with Judge Jubilex.
I'd like to see what kind of jurisdiction Judge Jubilex
There's
has.
only one. There's only one judge.
Since you're the prosecution, would you like to begin your opening arguments?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, we will. And again, there is. I mean, clearly you understand this is grog talk. We are the grog emperors, and only because of deference and respect to you that we allow this discussion to happen. Typically, we would have you summarily killed, but because of our benevolent nature and the fact that there is a schism throughout the grog empire, there are those who promote it. We want what's best for first edition Dungeons and Dragons, so that's why we're allowing this conversation to happen. But with that said, I'll start with my concerns about it. First, it's known that this was a complete cash grab, that basically this was done to a compilation of Dragon magazines that they basically repurposed. So it's a cash grab. Second, they started this terrible habit of having the DMG and the player's information in the same book, which one of the values of first edition was, here's the player's information in the player's handbook. The DM has a different job. They have other books. And that on page 9, if I remember correctly, no player is supposed to look at any, if they, it says, as the book in this exclusive precinct of the DM, you must view any non-DM player possessing it as something less than worthy of honorable death. By having this in one book, it is too tempting for players to look at it, and you've broken the veil. You've taken the veil of the DM secrecy and you've broken it in half. Now, with the merits of the document, there is the issue of specialization, thief acrobat. All I have to say is barbarian. There are classes that you could create with first edition classes. They're superfluous and redundant, in my opinion, and that's the top 3. There's plenty more with that goes, but I'll let you digest that. Dan, what is your thoughts?
Yes, I adopt the arguments that have been made by James, and for me, the biggest problems are, I think there seems to be a type of personality control going on here, which James has alluded to, which is that I don't know why you need to have all these subclasses like Barbarian and Cavalier. I don't know why you can't just play a fighter character and customize them in a way that is consistent with these subclasses. Also, it seemed to me that this really seemed to be a nod in many respects. You know, so they're all taking notes. I'm very nervous here. They're like, look at this. They're making me nervous. Stop them taking. Okay, yeah, thank you, Jason. You make me feel better. Take notes for us too. Yeah, you're gonna be our note taker. It seemed to me to be a nod to power gamers. So people wanted to be a lot of different classes or races. They wanted to be stronger. So now you can be all sorts of things. You can be a drow, you can be a Snurfeblin, you can all be different sorts of elves. There's additional classes. So, and I think if I recall correctly, there's a method for rolling up a character that if you're a human, you can be any character. It will ensure that you're going to be whatever character class you want, which is just, that wasn't the spirit of 1E to me. The spirit of 1E was you were thrilled if you got the roles to be an illusionist or something like that. And I think also I thought some of the flavor of 1E was that I do roll a 2 for hit points. I only have 2 hit points. Now you're getting a minimum number of hit points. And I understand that people like that and people house ruled it. My biggest problem is what James has talked about. This should have been a best of dragon. I should have been able to, as the DM, as the dungeon master, pick which ones I wanted to use. Now there's sort of this presumption that I've got to use these. I've got to allow you to be a barbarian. I've got to allow you to be a drow elf or a Snurfeblin as a player character. So those are my 2 biggest problems, that they were sort of forcing personality control, and in addition, a nod to power gaming.
Very good. So for the defense, you guys can decide how you want to rebut.
Councilor Dorso,
Carlos.
would you like to begin, or would you like?
No, Carlos, you go ahead, and I'll add in what I need to.
All right. Well, first of all, I think it's very interesting that my esteemed counselors on the other side of the argument would choose to use words constantly in this argument like it seems or I feel. I'm going to counter their opinions with actual fact. And I'll begin with the second book page in the Unearthed Arcana.
Ugh.
If anyone here was actually watching GROGTALK earlier, if you put yourselves through that misery of the beginning first 2 hours of the show, you would have heard James explicitly say that Fiend Folio has to be taken explicitly as canon because it was a published book by Gary Gygax. Well, I happen to have a book here that says by Gary Gygax as well on the front cover. And I will also read from the foreword on page 3, and I quote, "Thus, good reader, here is the last word." I will also go farther to say, interestingly enough, you mentioned all these things that are rehashes of Dragon Magazine. Well, let me counter that. Comeliness, not Dragon Magazine.
Oh, come on.
New weapons and armor, not Dragon Magazine. Tracking modifiers for Rangers, not Dragon Magazine. Armor results on thief abilities, not Dragon Magazine. New armor, not Dragon Magazine, which, by the way, introduced concepts like that would be in the future for 3.5, like damage reduction, that are core tenets of Dungeons & Dragons today. Illusionist spellbooks, not Dragon Magazine. Method 5, not Dragon Magazine. Most new magical items, not Dragon Magazine. The entire pictorial on pole arms that all of us wondered for years what they were like, not Dragon Magazine. And I'm going to end and turn over to Councilor Dorso after I mention this as well. In 3 episodes ago, when we were talking in GROGTALK about great modules of the past, I will quote James and Daniel directly when they say that Lost Caverns of Socanth was one of the greatest modules of all time, because they were quoting me when I said that. I will turn this over to you by mentioning that 90% of the magical items and the new spells that were included in Unearthed Arcana came directly from Lost Caverns of Socanth, the module that you guys personally said was worthy and a great addition to Dungeons & Dragons. Councilor Dorso, please take over.
I'm at a loss here, Carlos. You really studied this thing out. I was just gonna say I was gonna second your opinion about it's written by Gary Gygax. This is canon. This is canon, no matter what. You cannot argue that fact. Correct? I mean, Carlos is obviously agreeing with me. Now, as for these classes and stuff in here that you guys argue about, sure, nothing's perfect. But guess what? Inside the Dungeon Master Guide, didn't Gary say you can add and subtract rules as you please? Gentlemen?
Are you done?
Well, is it canon or is it not then? Is it canon?
canon.
So you can add or you can not, but then you say it's canon.
Well, it's canon. It's written by Gary Gygax, period. That's all we have to say. I mean, anything else after this is, it's up to you. Do you want a second edition part of, what do you think?
Well, those are interesting comments, and of course they're all stricken because we don't like them. But
You knew this was coming.
no, but we also know, and I don't have the source here, but I've already seen. Fortunately, some of the Grog Empire says, I guess in Dragon 67, comeliness was described there. So
strike that from the record. That's true.
So
We can't believe anything
right.
Carlos
I mean,
said.
clearly we've seen a pattern of.
And so we're going to go to ad hominem attacks.
No, I wouldn't say everything.
It's all I've got left.
I would just say,
That's
I would
right.
just suggest that the length and detail of the defense's arguments may not represent veracity completely, and so we do have to just. I would never impinge your credibility and your motives, but let's talk about comeliness. It is a superfluous trait. we had 6 stats. 6 stats were fine. Now we have 7 stats. And the problem with the 7 stat is you now have the ability, unlike previous to this, in Dungeons and Deities and Demigods, all those abilities, all the extra things were for deities themselves. But now with comeliness, you have basically the ability to affect others similar to a deity, which to me is clearly a violation of the previous what we were trying to accomplish here. As with regards to classes and races, all I have to say is a drow, assassin, something. What is allowed here? The complication of the system where you have to have this chart table 3, which was added to the errata because someone apparently forgot that we'd need to know what charts there are, that you can have a dark elf, not only fighter magic user, a ranger magic user, dark elf. If that says the Baroque nature of this thing, that a player can play that's not a game I want to play, sir. If loving this book is right, I want to be wrong. Amen.
Well, James, it's interesting that you should say feel and seems again in your argument when you said when you were talking about charisma, because I'm going to mention the exact. I'm going to quote charisma here from your beloved book, Player's Handbook, here, in which it says,
part of the Holy Trinity.
Charisma is the measure of the character's combined physical attractiveness. Wow, that's actually in the first sentence.
Right.
So I guess maybe it's not superfluous to break it down a little bit further for further definition. And if you want to talk about Baroque nature of design, we can just look at the Dungeon Master's Guide if you're really interested in breaking that down.
I object to that. He's blasphemy of the Holy Trinity. That is clearly a violation.
Thank you. And I'd also
it's
like
comparison, it's comparison.
I'd like to object on the grounds that Carlos does not appear sleepy.
That's right. He made that was a ruse. He just used that as to rope-a-dope us.
He's a hustler.
And furthermore, I would go so far as to say, if you want to talk about interesting character classes, the Player's Handbook puts forth that you can dual class as a human. You could easily play a ranger, magic user, fighter, druid, thief if you wanted to, very easily.
I'd like to point out some about what I object to about comeliness here is that, if you have an attribute which is based solely upon physical attractiveness, I would be concerned that this would then encourage players to use this. And, I think too many games are already, you've got people saying, oh, I try to pick up that good-looking woman in the bar. Too many games, I feel like, can have a tendency to evolve into that. And I think if you know how good-looking, if you give a character an 18 comeliness, aren't they going to walk around all the trying to pick up women, and that's what your adventure is going to turn into? I mean, why do you really need it? I mean, doesn't it potentially cause more harm than good to the actual gameplay?
As a dungeon master myself, you try to avoid this because I play with up to 3 or 4 women sometimes in my group. So I purposely avoid all that interaction and everything else. I mean, if somebody says I do X, I look at them and go, no, it ain't going to happen, Or one of my characters lately was they tried to influence my female gray elf, and I ended up sticking a blade in the character's gut and poisoning them and ending that interaction completely. So each dungeon master has their own way of doing things. I personally don't like to bring any sexual nonsense in because I have a very diverse group of players. So, Carlos?
The rule in and of itself to comeliness really wasn't the main thrust of this argument, really. What it was is we're talking about completeness, all right? Yes, you're right, the rule for comeliness is broken, but so is pummeling, overbearing, and grappling from the Dungeon Master's Guide. So you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, I agree.
Hey, we're going to start agreeing now? What's wrong with you? Don't agree with them.
Yeah. Well, we don't. I don't agree.
Do you have a fever? Do you have a dry cough? Are you okay?
He said, no, I agree with that. Comeliness is broken.
Oh,
but,
that's
okay,
true.
The Ranger. I'd like to point out something about the Ranger, which disappoints me when you can have a drow elf be a Ranger. is that, and this wasn't Gary writing, but in Sage Advice, somebody wrote in and said, why can't an elf be a ranger? Because it seemed to make sense, and a half elf can be. And I know it wasn't Gary, but and James knows this, I'm a big fan of the response. The response was this idea that rangers they're basically Aragorn, and they're bloodthirsty and wanting to kill evil characters. That's why, right, the ranger is the one that gets the additional damage, right, against the giant class, if I recall correctly, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it was this idea that a ranger was, you got to be, you're good and you hate evil things. The idea of a drow ranger just seemed to me to be inconsistent with the idea of a ranger.
There's that word again, seems.
Well, I understand that. I mean, because no one actually, that's right. I mean, no one actually says that this is what the ranger is, it was only Sage Advice. But I will tell you, a drow ranger does, I mean, a lot of it is going to be based upon seams, because does it change the feel for the game? And what one's feel for the game is of course subjective. But my feel for the ranger was one thing, and I was led to believe that feeling was correct, that it was basically Aragorn. And the idea for me of having a drow elf be a ranger is not consistent with the model of Aragorn as a ranger.
So let me make sure I have you clear with what you're trying to express here. All right. What you're trying to tell me is that we should stick to archetypes when it comes to classes, and everybody should be essentially a cookie cutter version of the next character with really no variation whatsoever. Is that what you're trying to get across?
No, it's not.
Because it seems that way.
No, I think that there is a point at which the type of character class is being extended to the breaking point. So, look, we're clearly talking about things that don't have fine lines. But at a certain point, I think that you are changing, if you are allowing certain, so, I mean, well, let me see this. Well, why don't we just say then every race can be every class? I mean, even the book that shall not be named does not allow halflings to be assassins.
That's correct.
So I mean, because the counter argument to that is, well, then should we just not have any at all?
The interesting thing about that, though, is that we do have examples of halfling assassins throughout published materials. For example, in the Greyhawk campaign itself, I use I can't even think of what it's called right now. The thing they carry around an emperor on is held by halfling assassins. There's a halfling assassin in Return of the Eight that ends up poisoning Jalarzi's familiar. So we have these characters in there. It's been implied by people like Roger Moore and people like Gary himself throughout history of D&D that there can be shades to these different classes.
But isn't it? It's a change to say that it is acceptable, that it is permissible, and it's canon. So in other words, it's fun to have maybe the halfling assassin in a module, and you think that's cool. Isn't it another thing to say now that everyone can be one?
Yeah, well, it is canon whether you like it or not. Because, like I said, on page 3, Gary says it's canon. It's canon.
Gary says that because he needed money. The company was about to be bankrupt. And it's interesting.
Whether or not.
And it's interesting that.
Did he tell you personally what his motives were?
I don't know. Hey, Gary, did you tell me? No, I don't. I've never talked to him about it.
Because without the Ouija board, I don't think that's a very good argument.
Well, there is other material that's out there that showed that information.
Yes, TSR really needed hardback level money at that time.
Regardless of what the motivation was, it remains canon. You can't project your opinion on whether or not it's canon onto the material. It is.
Well, there's a lot of things in the material.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to use it. Gary says it himself in both the beginning of the player's handbook and the DMG that the rules are guidelines. You don't have to use it, but you cannot dismiss it as not being canon.
Well, it is. Well, what our argument is, it's not Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1.0. It is the start of AD&D 1.5, and that in just a short 4 years later, the second edition comes, which is basically an amalgamation of all this. It takes the non-proficiencies, builds them into skills, and all of a sudden you have second edition. So it's not for us, which is what I agree with, is it becomes 1.5.
Hold on. You want to talk about a cash grab? Second edition was a major cash grab. They took first edition, pared it down, made it all goody-goody for the satanic panic crowd, and then they published it. That's all second edition was. It's just basic first edition, far as I'm concerned. It's great to start the kids on, but that's it.
Well, can we talk about Snerfeblin? I mean, I don't mean to pick on that. Well, I guess I do mean to pick on that.
Let's talk about Snerfeblin.
Right, and the drow. This is okay. So I guess my concern. I think there are probably good things in Unearth. Oops, what did I almost say? In the book that in the book that shall not be named. I mean, clearly there is. I think what whip is. There's things that I've always wondered about. Why isn't there an entry for that? Like whip. Like what damage does a whip do? Right. New spells. I never have a problem. I mean, unless new spells are overly powerful, and I can't comment on that in this. No problem. New magical items, great. No problem. The real issue is with the character classes and the strengthening up of the characters, that you can automatically become any character class you want. You can be Snerfeblin, you can be Drow. Isn't there a real change in the vibe of the game?
I think that the spirit of the game lies in everyone's individual campaign. If that changed your campaign fundamentally, I think that was something that was projected upon it by your players, or perhaps even your own attitude towards it. Because I won't disagree with you. I don't like Drow PCs. I don't like Snerfeblin PCs. The Barbarian class is overpowered, and so is the Cavalier class. But again, I don't think you can throw out the baby with the bathwater. There were a lot of very good ideas. There's a lot of innovations that have become time-honored innovations in D&D and later editions that all sprung from Unearthed Arcana. And they enhance and they heighten and enrich a campaign to the point where I don't think that you can consider it not a worthy addition to the canon of D&D.
Well, but the challenges are there's some things that seem more egregious than, like in the player's handbook. You can't have a halfling, when they become 6th level, be able to potentially summon an earth elemental or a Zorn. You don't have elves who are already considered pretty powerful, and people would roll their eyes when everyone wanted to be an elf, because now you have drow who can, darkness and all the other innate abilities that they have. And of course you'd say, well, if you're in the sunlight, you get minuses, but it's Dungeons and Dragons, It's not cities and things. So 99%. I think that's, to Dan's point, the challenge is in a Dragon magazine or in a module, the Dungeon Master can say, yeah, that's not part, we're not going to run that. And you certainly have the right to do it. But when it's in the book, and the first thing, whenever we play a game, the first thing people ask, are you using this book? And right then and there it sets, if you are, the characters that people want to play are inexorably different than what they would play in the player's handbook. And they all gravitate towards multi-class, super powerful, a bunch of innate abilities, and the 0 to hero becomes, if you do play that as a 0 to hero, the other players are looking at you. What do you mean you just want to be a normal thief? When you can be a half-elf thief, I'm just making up the example. And
of course.
So to me, it's not the issue with the book, it's back to the canon. I agree with you, it is canon. Because it's canon, it causes a struggle already with so many more things that you have to parse to get to the game that you want. And being able to understand, like specialization. I think specialization, when I was a player, was great. Fighters kind of got screwed in the first edition. Again, we talked about paladins having protection from evil and all these great things. And while their experience points accelerates much faster, for those first few levels, you get all these bonuses. Giving specializations to fighters makes a lot of sense. And they gave weapons of choice for paladins and cavaliers. So they're still overpowered. To me, that's back to the game you want to run. You can run it, but your players feel disappointed and cheated versus engaging it. And I'm sure there's ways around it, but that's been the challenge I've had DMing with this book.
Well, we've already established what I wanted to establish throughout this entire argument with your admission that it is canon.
Well,
that's really all I care about. But
it is.
See, he knows. Carlos knows
saying.
I'm lawful neutral.
I definitely see what you're saying, James, and I agree with the soul of it to some degree. But I would counter with this. Dan, you've been a member of my Patreon now for probably about 6 months, I would say. That entire time, and you've read several of my modules. In that amount of time, have you ever seen a Cavalier cross through any of my submissions? How about a Barbarian? How about that?
No.
It's never happened, because even though I support this book, like James and you have put forth, it doesn't necessarily fit the tenor of what I'm doing, but that doesn't mean it's not a good tool.
So let's say, if I'm playing in your group, so you're running a campaign.
Sure.
And I say, okay, I want to be a barbarian.
Okay.
Do I get to be a barbarian?
Of course you can be a barbarian if you can make it work culturally, and if you're willing to deal with all the penalties that you're going to receive culturally. You can't read. Do you think your fellow players are really going to like what you're about ready to do to their magic items?
Yeah.
You might want to think twice about it.
I've thought twice. I want to be a barbarian.
Okay, if you want to be a barbarian, you're welcome to be a barbarian. You're welcome to be miserable at the table.
And James is a Svirfneblin.
James is perfectly fine to be a Svirfneblin too. And again, he's going to have to accept the cultural problems that come with being a Svirfneblin. There's checks and balances all through the text.
But
I'm not saying that they're not overpowered, because they are. But it's great to have that tool when you need it.
Well, I get. Is it going to make it difficult on you though? So, for example, I had a player who wanted to play a half ogre, and I was a softie, and I said yes. And I'm actually a big fan of half ogres for one-offs. When I run one-offs, I often have a half ogre. I think they're fun. But the half ogre, it was tough to continually remember that it was a half ogre, because what has to happen then is probably they walk into a bar, people scream, so doesn't it make things more difficult on the DM to have, you can say to the player, you got to make it work, and they're like, oh, I'll make it work, but then you've got work, don't you, as a dungeon master, because now you've always got to stay on them and make sure.
To quote Super Chicken, I knew this job was dangerous when I took it. I mean, honestly, that's the role of the DM is to deal with you're the arbiter. You're there to deal with the difficult situations. What you're also there for is to provide an entertaining and enjoyable experience for your players. If they want to play some weird esoteric class, hey man, if they're willing to deal with everything that I'm going to put on them for doing it, okay, that's fine. And to answer to David, he was asking in the chat about my opinion about paladins. I have no problem with paladins, but once again, I'm going to have to deal with what it means to be a paladin.
Right, and I think that's where Dan is coming. We come from, and I know you all. We do pickups. We do an open table. We want to have an environment where people can play their characters and have a good time. And I would say this with the paladin, the barbarian, if they're not managed and the player is not willing to take the negatives with it, you get this situation where the paladin slaughters people, the barbarian finds the potion and smashes it or whatever, so they can get single experience. It sets up these adversarial things, which again, now as a DM, you have to either challenge or you have to remind the player. Whereas some of the more quote-unquote simpler classes, you don't have it. Is it an abdication of responsibility? Well, yeah, in some ways, in that if you're trying to get, we struggle, I think a lot of groups still struggle getting people to play first edition. And if you don't have a compelling world, or you don't have a compelling story, people are turned off before they even get there because they want to play this one-off thing. And that's some of the challenges. But I don't think it's insurmountable. I agree with that. We had a barbarian. But if they break the magic items, believe me, the party's going to jump on them at some point and take care of it.
And I want to mention something about the paladin. I mean, I think that two things help reduce paladin abuse. number one, paladins, of course, can only adventure with good characters rather than just they get one adventure. So, the reality is many groups are not going to have a paladin because people want to be chaotic neutral. And so, you have to now take one for the, take one, not for the team, take one just for the one guy. Oh,
Sure.
James wants to be a paladin. Now we all have to be good characters, and people don't like that. And
it was a huge struggle when I was developing Ashala, for example. There's a paladin character in the Porcelain Sword of Queen Ashala that I wrote for GROGTALK. I had to ensure that the other player characters over there would be of a mix that they could support that character, or at least they could find a way to work in that rubric.
And actually, if I recall correctly, I played her, and that's when you asked me what my alignment was.
You're exactly right.
So I was.
So I walk the walk, man.
Right? Oh, you do? Oh no, Carlos does without question. Carlos is not just Carlos doesn't force it. And the second thing is that you had to make the rolls to get a paladin.
Sure.
Right? And so what do you guys think about, Vic and Carlos, what do you guys think about the ability to be any class you want? If you're a human, is my understanding, right? I mean, I didn't like, because it wasn't a lot of the fun. You sit around the table, you roll, and you get excited, like, oh, I can be a ranger or I can be a paladin. And that was part of the fun, it seemed to me.
I'll go first with this. For me, I play strictly in the world of Greyhawk, okay? So that right there informs a lot of what happens in my campaign. Gygax's World of Greyhawk is very human-centric, okay? You're going to deal with about 85 to 90% of the characters you're going to meet in a Greyhawk campaign. If you're rolling with a Greyhawk campaign in the way that the percentages should break down, according to the books, you're going to deal with 90% human characters. So around your table, it should reflect that mix. So and the reason I put that forward right away is because there's that whole feeling, well, what is the incentive for a player to play a human character if anybody can be anything? Well, again, it's cultural and it's setting based in Greyhawk.
Well, because the class level limits, they were expanded, right? So one of the reasons why people...
They were expanded.
Right? And it's +2 if you could have been multi-class.
Sure.
So
if you look, by the way, Luke Gygax has an interesting story about playing Melf, in which he was playing, he was trying to expand level limits at one point in time with Gary. And he was telling me this story in which he was doing things like trying to find tomes of understanding and Ioun stones and things like that to artificially boost up. The story is very fascinating if you ever should hear it from Luke, because the implications on what can and can't be done with level limits within Gary's own home campaign, it really puts a lot of things in perspective. Gary was probably not as hard and fast about level limits as you might expect.
We've heard about that, a bunch of things. To do as I say, not as I do.
But
go ahead.
Level limits. Let's talk about that. Just let's go back a little bit. Gentlemen, inside the Player's Handbook and the Unearthed Arcana, at certain points in these characters, when they get up to certain levels, they've got so much administrative duty, adventuring becomes nearly impossible. I mean, look at the Cavalier. If they get up to, I don't remember the level, but they get up to a certain point, they've got 100 men-at-arms. Basically, you're done. You've got administrative stuff. You've got all kinds of other stuff. You have a fiefdom or something like that. You're out of the game. And the same with other classes, clerics, paladins. They attract followers and everything else. So level limits, sure, there's level limits, but by the time that point comes along, there's so much administrative duty. You're on a curve here that goes straight up, and you've got too much to do. So you're basically, those characters are out of the game, and they are going to be, tavern owners or keeps, or they have a church or something else.
That totally reinforces my opinion about there being a soft cap as well as there being a hard cap. The soft cap is all context within the campaign.
Well, let's talk about special. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vic.
Well, that's Carlos and I are on the same opinion about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you get to 9th level druid, you're not sitting there, you're not going to be sitting there campaigning. You've got to go around to see all the other druids in the area, or you know, you get up to that point, you just don't have the time as a player character to do that. So, all right, Dan, your turn.
Well, what?
Well,
Go ahead.
Don't I get a barbarian horde too at some
Yeah.
point?
You do.
Yes.
Good
Okay.
luck.
All right.
Good. That's like herding cats right there.
Yeah.
And that's at eighth level, right, or something like that? Is that what I remember correctly?
Right. So that character is basically out of the
Do you know
game.
what you get?
They've got to go back to the barbarian lands, the snow barbarians, the ice barbarians. Because both Carlos and I do the Greyhawk, or you're up at Ekpur or something, or you know, the wolf nomads or somewhere like that. That character is basically gone. So, I mean, and that's the way I play it in my campaign. It's like, oh, well, guess what? I start rolling and I go, you've tracked this many people. Well, what am I going to do with them? Well, what are you going to do with them? You know, now you're going to spend your fortune and take care of all this, you know.
Correct.
Well, I will say I do like, there are certain things which I think were necessary. For example, the expansion of the giant class opponents. I mean, because that was necessary, because the giant class opponents were identified with the player's handbook, and then you had the Fiend Folio, right? And so you needed to update that. So that I understand completely. I mean, that makes complete sense to me. So, and the tracking, is the tracking better? How is the tracking different?
The tracking is modifiers, is what it is. There's a lot of delineation on different effects, weather effects, time effects that have an ultimate effect on how well you can track.
And they're practical too. I mean, if you look at it and you've ever been a hunter or anything like that, or you know, you look at them, they are practical. They will give you a better understanding of what happens. I mean, it used to be you had 100 gnolls come up and fight you or whatever, and the tracking, if something happened, the ranger couldn't follow them back to where they came from. But with these new rules, that ranger's easily able to follow 100, and that should be the way it is anyways, because you know, 100 feet crossing the ground is way different than 1 set of footprints, you know.
So
yeah, to Vic's point, the 100 gnolls that he's tracking would give him a 200% modifier bonus.
right.
I mean, but you know, so look, I don't have a problem with that. It sounds like it's a fine addition. But you know, the way I would have just handled it without the book that shall not be named is I would just do I do modifier. Don't DMs do modifiers all the time just on their own?
Right, but what you were saying earlier was how things, whether they should be codified in the rules or not. You can't argue it both directions.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, no, I understand it.
We can argue whatever we want.
I just.
Well, they actually nerfed the ranger a little bit because it's not 90% base to start with. You start with it really brings it down to, and so I actually like these changes. If I were to dare crack this book open and use it, I've used that before.
That makes the ranger one that makes more sense to me. I mean, I don't know that we need more. Do we need more tables though? I don't know. Even if it's a useful table. Do we really need more tables? I don't know.
Well, my 1985 version set would say absolutely yes. More tables, yep. More things to look up. My 2020 version, I don't know. Just roll and try to let's see what you got.
Right. Because now it's like, okay, I'm going to track. See, this is the way. See, this is the way I would prefer to do it. Is okay. It's a 90% base, and I think there were some. If I recall, I think there were modifiers under DMG. Yeah, okay, under Player's Handbook. But you know, basically, it's like, okay, I'm going to modify it in my head. Whereas now it's like, okay, just a second, guys. You know, Aragorn is tracking. You guys do something for 5 minutes. I'm going to like calculate all these numbers. So I don't know. And I know that's probably more of an attack on the original AD&D as well, because it had a lot of.
But Dan, if you've read the book, you know, like Carlos and I, we can just off the top of our head go, oh yeah, there's no problem. You're going to be able to track these creatures through the woods. It's not going to be an issue. It's if you're not reading the book, you're not going to be able to just automatically put that through your head. That's
I would suggest that most of the rules that you guys remember, you remember them from being a 15-year-old when you were playing back then, and you just have carried it over through now. Well, I read this as a 15-year-old, and I've used it since then, so it's just kind of part of my DNA, just like some of these other rules are for you. Page 73, right off the top of your head, or 72, right off the top of your head in the DMG. It's to hit tables, that kind of thing.
Well, and I think that's right. I mean, isn't it important here when each one of us started playing? So, I've mentioned
Absolutely.
this before. Yeah, for me, a big part of this is nostalgia. And so the nostalgia for me is not the book that shall not be named. By 1985, I was in either 11th or 12th grade. And, so if it was May, I would have been finishing up 11th grade.
Wait, you're older than me?
Apparently.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I was born in 68.
Oh, I'm 70, so okay.
Yeah. You're 70? You look...
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
That's why he's sheltering in place. He's got to stay home.
Potions of longevity and all that.
He's high risk. You ever notice how every wizard in a module has unnaturally long age? They're always 150. So by 1985, for me, D&D was kind of out of vogue. I mean, I did still continue to play to probably about 89. At least for me, it was. I mean, look, I was in 11th grade. It didn't seem that cool anymore. And so when I think of nostalgia, I'm trying to recreate the early 80s for me. And so for this book, I just don't associate it with that.
Well, given your opinion on Unearthed Arcana, it shows.
Well,
yeah, clearly.
So let's talk about specialization, because that's one that all players liked. And many DMs, I think, if they understood the ramifications, had a challenge. So I'll ask the defense, would you allow double a specialization at first level?
Let me, first of all, before we go any further with this, let's get a firm basis of understanding here. Does everyone here remember where specialization came from?
No.
Len Lakofka came up with the concept with the Archer class in Dungeon Magazine, and it was expounded upon for Unearthed Arcana. So when we take that into account to begin with, we already that it's a Lakofka rule, all right? With what we were talking, with what you gentlemen were talking about Len before and some of his esoteria, I think it's dubious to begin with. And no, I would probably not allow double specialization. But again, I would say that because of a cultural thing. I don't think that you can become a double specialist in a weapon at first level. You don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, but the rule itself doesn't preclude it.
The rule itself says that you could be, yes.
Right. What about you, Vic?
I have some people in my group that do the double specialization, but I've put limits on it because I felt that the Lofka rule, as Mr. Carlos likes to say, is it's not written correctly. It should be modified to reflect a player's level and dedication of this. And I've also come back and said to players, well, when have you had time to practice? When have you had time to sit there every day like a cavalier? Now, Carlos will agree with me here. The Cavalier has the bonus for his sword, and is it the lance there?
The weapons of choice. And
yeah, the weapons of choice is the Cavalier. I ask my players when they want to do this double specialization, so when do you have time to do this? When do you have 3 hours a day to do this? When you're doing a hex crawl all the way across Greyhawk, you don't. So I try to limit the abilities on the double specialization as much as I can.
So is it fair to say that forget about with surprise, that a specialized bow fighter could potentially inflict 32 hit points of damage in one round?
Tell me where you get that.
From bows, fighters and rangers using long, short, or composite bow as a special weapon are entitled to a point-blank range between 6 and 30 feet. They're +2 to hit and damage, and any successful hit deals out double damage, a total of 16 points.
Okay, yeah, a point-blank range. I forgot about the point-blank range rule on it.
So
Yeah, you're
two
right.
shots, a first-level fighter can inflict potentially 32 points of damage. Before that, the most a person could do is, on a large creature, would be 24 points, assuming they had 1800 strength using a long lance or a two-handed sword. To me, that seems a 50% increase in potential damage. And then if they have a strong dex, which of course with method 5, they could be +5 to hit. So they're acting so that, and I love specialization. I think for fighters who get shafted, It's good to give them, because they have no power increase. They only get +1 to hit per level. But this basically, what I've seen happen is that the first level orc, who could take 1 or 2 hits possibly, they get one-shotted now, and they become the goblins and the kobolds of the Unearthed Arcana Book That Shall Not Be Named era. And everything gets powered up. Gnolls are now orcs. And so these monsters, which you could use at lower level, they become very problematic because of the power curve. And then what DMs have to do, and this is, and again, part of this, we want to get you guys use it. How do you accommodate that? Where other players who are not specialized, now you have to change the power curve. Instead of throwing 10 kobolds at a first level party, which is challenging, you're potentially throwing 10 orcs first level, or 10 gnolls or hobgoblins. And then if the fighters go down, you've got a potential TPK. So I'll start with Carlos and Vic. How do you adjudicate that in the land of specialization?
Let me ask you, it's rude to answer a question with a question, but I think I'm going to do it in this case, just for the benefit of posing my answer. How often do you really think that your fighter is going to be at that point blank range and able to unleash those attacks on a higher level character in that situation?
Well,
do you think that that's going to happen? Is that going to be a commonplace thing? Do you expect?
Tactically, they're going to try to make sure that happens as much as possible.
Right, they're going to try to do that.
Right.
I would agree with that, but I would also say that you got to remember what we're saying here. Okay, for the point blank range, we're talking about a relatively short distance. Okay, I think that you are going to find that it's not going to be as common an occurrence as you think. At least in my experience with specialized bowmen, it's not. Also, keep in mind that you can't double specialize as a ranged
That's
fighter.
correct.
That's correct. So,
but
I'm going to add to Carlos's point here. As a dungeon master, I make sure that the enemy closes to within hand combat range as fast as possible, because it's just the nature of the beast. And we're going to go to keep at Blood Red Falls, gentlemen. We're going to go back here a little bit to your memories. On top of the keep, what did I use? Rule 64. Getting behind objects for these monsters like the gnolls and stuff. They'd get behind objects and their AC goes from 4 to -4 really quick. So you're taking away some of that advantage too of those double specializations. So
back to the power game concern. A first level fighter, player's handbook, using method 4, probably has a 14, 15, 16, maybe 17, very unlikely having an 18 strength. A method 5 fighter who's rolling 9d6. Now I've seen it. I rolled a 14 with 9d6.
I'm ready to roll.
With potential age adjustment, most likely going to have at least a 17, probably an 18, which means they'll have exceptional strength. If you allow double specialization, which the rules do allow, as a longsword, they are potentially +4, +5 to hit, 3 per 2 attacks. And what it does is it changes the component, how you make encounters for first level. And now you have fighters who are very good at fighting, which is great. But if they get overwhelmed, the rest of the party is dead, because you've tipped traditionally or tried to. You're now throwing harder monsters so they can be a challenge. And so
right.
This is not a bash, but this is, part of the show is, if you're going to use UA, how do you do it and not blow up? Because what I've seen is DMs will then say, okay, I can't throw orcs, I can't throw goblins, I got to throw gnolls at this first level party. And once one of the 2 fighters go down, it's potentially game over. They've got halberds and reach weapons and grappling and all this other stuff. So how have you accommodated, the most egregious is the bow, but how do you accommodate that without causing the rest of the party to potentially be in more harm's way? So I'll go with Vic I'll go with Carlos and then Vic again.
Well, I think what you're essentially asking is this time-honored question, all right? If you're watching the movie The Avengers, how do Captain America and Black Widow how do they possibly contribute to a fight that Thor and Iron Man are in? Well, the answer is that they're performing different roles in that combat. All right, they're acting in different fashions, supporting, doing different sorts of things, lobbing flaming oil, doing all kinds of things that could possibly even up the score very easily.
Right.
So I think that there are other ways to contribute to a fight than just strictly numerical damage. I see what you're saying. What you're saying is very true about the power curve and making sure that everybody stays engaged and that everybody feels like they can contribute to a fight. But I would argue that if you're playing your character properly, then what you're doing is you're not thinking one-dimensionally. You're trying to think of what you can do in many different aspects to contribute to that fight, whether it be area control, battlefield control, whatever. Vic?
Yeah, and you need to be fluid with your character. If you cannot be a fluid player character, and you're going to be this one-dimensional, all I'm going to do is hack and slash, well, Carlos and I both know that this character eventually is going to die a very gruesome death because he is not adaptable and the player is not adaptable, and it doesn't make for a fun game at all. Again, I'll go back to Keep of Blood Red Falls. The character levels are 8 through 10 to play the module, and I'm battling you guys with 18 gnolls on top of a keep, and I'm effectively holding you back for extended periods of time until other things can happen. I mean, is that normal? Well, sure. I mean, you're looking at it. I'm using every rule I can to make sure that it happens. And Carlos knows as well as I do, you use each and every rule that you can to your advantage, while the players have to use their abilities to overcome those rules, and this is why they're built into the game.
Go ahead, Dan.
Can I roll my strength?
Of course you can.
How many rolls do I get? I can't even find it in this book. Where is it?
Book.
What are you playing on? What are you
I'm
playing?
a fighter.
Okay. You are playing a fighter. You are going
Page
with...
page 74.
You're doing that 5, correct?
Yeah, page 74.
Thank you.
74, and you're doing 9. By the way,
no.
I should also mention,
Nine.
if I remember right, James, did you not roll up your magic user using method 5 for the Greyhawk Hex
Yeah,
Crawl?
I did.
I don't think you have all 18s, do you?
No, but I've got pretty good stats.
You do. You have decent stats, but I don't think you're unbalancing. Do you think so?
I did.
You're at
I'd like to say that I was shocked when I saw that, and I did not approve that.
That's why I did it.
I know. Method 1 that's the way to go.
Which is fine if that's the way you want to do it. It's
And
fine.
that's the
Gary
way I
used
prefer
method
when I
1 is
play with
mine.
my-
There's a reason why it's called method 5, and there's 4 other methods. You can use whichever one you want.
Why
Like
do
I
we-
said, it's just another tool to put in the box.
When I grew up, we rolled 3 dice 6 down the line.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yep.
Actually, we didn't.
Get off my
I just
lawn.
wanted to say that.
That's right.
You know?
I don't think he's ever rolled
All right.
3d6.
I get 9 of these babies. This is awesome. Ready for this? Let's see. Let's see if it's broken. This is the test. James, if my strength is what, this game is broken.
If you roll an 18, which again it's not impossible not to roll it, because for instance to Carlos's point, my magic user has 17 intelligence, 17 wisdom, 17 dexterity, charisma of 18. I'm sorry, constitution of 18 as a magic user, charisma of 12, cleverness of 15.
You're not helping us.
Well, I have 3 17s and an 18. That's pretty good.
All right. Well, here I go. 9 of these.
Yes, 9.
And you've almost died 6 times.
Well,
I
that's
just
because I'm a
rolled a
magic
6.
user. I wasn't a drow magic user, which I should have been, but that's another story. But then I couldn't use method
That's
5.
number 1.
I think you should have 9 6-sided dice and just roll it all.
I'm still waiting to hear where Dan's rationale that having the 18 strength is going to be a game breaker.
Yeah.
That's your role as a fighter to be a frontline fighter, right? We just talked about how you're going to contribute to a fight based on your archetype, right? So wouldn't it be worse if you had like a 18 charisma?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? You know what my strength is?
What?
It's a 14. I started with a 6. I never rolled anything higher than a 4. I had like 5 straight 2s.
Yeah, one of the fighters I rolled for, I think Doug's game, he allowed us to use method 5 because, of course, when I'm a player, this book is wonderful. And I rolled 9 dice, I got a 14. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, so it is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So let's go over this. Let's talk about, now we'll turn it around. What are things in this book, what are things that should have been in this book that were not in this book?
Well, I would prefer
Carlos.
to go with, for me, what I hate about this book more than what, if we're going to flip this around. They had 2 chances between the Dungeon Master's Guide and this book to fix grappling, pummeling, and overbearing, and both failed miserably. Those rules are still way too cumbersome. They're way too baroque. They're way too useless.
Well, there's 2 versions for those who have not read it. There's the quick and dirty, which is what almost I use all the time because I don't have time to figure it out because I haven't memorized it. Or the second version, which you hope would have been better than what was in the DM guide, and it's just a new version of crazy.
Yeah. That's the first thing when I think about this book that I can't stand, is that they had 2 cracks at it and they botched it both times. Second of all, I would never defend comeliness. I would never defend the inclusion of Dro or Svirfneblin as player characters. I don't like either of those. But again, I think that the good way outweighs the bad in this book.
Great. How about Vic? What's your things that you dislike?
Right.
And I'll actually put things I do like. So go ahead.
All right. Things I don't like. I don't like it that druids and clerics don't have cantrips. I wish they did. I mean, they gave it to the magic users and the illusionists. Why can't a cleric have a simple cantrip or a druid have a simple cantrip? It should be fairly easy and everything else. I agree with Carlos about the Svirfneblin. I just think that's just out of line. As for the drow, I've been playing drow since time immemorial, and they need to be toned down just a little bit, but they also should have not major, but a very animosity should be a little bit more like hatred for when they're above the ground from the elves, other elves, and so that their life is a lot tougher than it is. The barbarians are a little bit overbearing, especially when it comes down to magic and stuff. But there's nothing I can do about that. And I don't especially like method 5 myself. So next, gentlemen, your turn.
So here's what I like. I do like specialization. I just think it has to be managed so that you don't have unbalanced. Again, that whether we like it or not, if fighters can use specialization as it's written. Now, another question I have for you: do you allow multi-class fighters to specialize?
No.
That is something that has been bandied about for a long time, and I do not personally.
And I do not as well. But it doesn't.
No, that's an impossibility. There's no time for a fighter that's a multi-class to just sit there and go, okay, I'm going to get 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day with my weapon as practice. That's just impossible. Well, all the other things that they have to do.
Well, for me, it's to give, and I'm not a big fan of Rangers having it, only because the fighters kind of get screwed. They don't really have a whole lot of powers. Give them one thing that's a good fighter thing. But as rules is written, Rangers get it as well. So I do like specialization because fighters should fight much better than, at first level. I know that's a tradition. At least now they have a chance to really be exceptional, and they're going to hit and they're going to attack more than once per level thing. So I do like that.
I agree with you, Dan, or James, about that. But it should be only hand-to-hand combat, not archers and stuff like that with bows and distance weapons. I think a fighter should be more of a upfront, in-your-face advantage than having the archery thing.
Because I had players who would be short sword specialized, double specialized, 18 dex or drow, And they'd be like, yeah, now I get attacked 3 times per round because I'm double specialized in short swords.
Well, the worst for me had would have been the dart specialist from second edition. That was imagine that with the darts of the hornet's nest or something horrible like that. But one other thing no one has mentioned yet about this book that I absolutely adore, and this is just me as a Greyhawk guy, the non-human deities inclusion is fantastic.
Well, I assume that's Dan was going to say that's the one thing he did like about it, but.
Well, I'd like to talk about that because, I'm a huge fan of Roger Moore's articles in Dragon Magazine. I absolutely love the deities. I use them all the time. I even referred to Urtrus today because I think we still have to
praise him. And I wanted to mention something interesting to you, Dan, about Urtrus. One of my co-conspirators for Castle Entertainment is commissioning an artist to do all the gods of Greyhawk that have never been drawn before, including non-humans. Urtrus was one of the first they did, and the picture is awesome.
Oh, fantastic.
I need to send it to you.
You need to get T-shirts.
You have a picture of Urtrus, and it's awesome.
Thank you. Though they're fantastic. I love the deities. Some of the concerns that have been raised, and I don't know if I care that much about this, is that some people didn't like the fact that they were then now kind of canonized. So in other words, are you supposed to now record, these are the deities of the, these are the known deities, whereas typically you could pick whatever deities, you would make the deities yourself. So do you guys have any trouble with them kind of becoming canonized?
No, I like the fact that they were canonized. I support that entirely.
As a matter of fact, I wish they would have came out with a deities and demigods 1.5, if you wish, to add these in, along with some of the Greyhawk.
I would have loved that too, Vic. That would have been awesome. It would have
been. It's just expanded it that much. And if they wanted to put in Forgotten Realms, I really wouldn't have cared. But it would have been. It'd have been a bigger tome and something I would have really enjoyed.
What I would have really liked, because I'm a big fan of these publications, like Judges. Oh, who's that?
This is the mini that I have of from the Dragons series from Dungeons and Dragons. You notice what's in its mouth? That's a Drizzt Do'Urden figure from Forgotten Realms.
It's not a gnome.
I don't know how that got there.
It's going to be a gnome.
No, I don't hate gnomes.
Oh, that's right. You're gnome.
I do hate Forgotten Realms, though.
Hey, Carlos, all my Forgotten Realms stuff is sitting in boxes over to my right here. So you don't have to
put this up here. This is like my actual testimony to my physical hatred and loathing of that setting. Please continue, though.
The campaign that shall not be named. That's gotcha.
Yeah. That's what it should be. I think Carlos and I will agree that it should be the campaign that shall not.
Well, we had Ed.
It's like Power Word Stun.
Yeah, we had Ed on the show, and he was very gracious. And it's interesting because I'm not that familiar. I don't have the level of depth. I mean, I know Greyhawk better, which doesn't say a whole lot. But it was D&D for me for a while when I wasn't playing because I didn't have a group. And the computer games were based in that campaign. So in some ways, because of those, I know that campaign a little bit better. But to me, D&D is Greyhawk. So I agree with that. So what did I like about this? Well, specialization.
Now Akbar still loves you, James.
That's good. Wonderful. I appreciate that. I liked more information. Pole arms. I never knew anything about them. People make fun of that. Gary Gygax has this fetish for pole arms. But hey, it's kind of cool that they have them all listed here. That's great. Right. Some of the spells fix some of the problems. Players hate to have to rest for a week. Players hate being sucked for levels. Well, if you give them news that they're going to go after a white in this barrow, they can cast negative plane protection. There's ways around it without having to find a 16th level cleric to get restoration who's not going to cast that on, people. So there's things. There are some spells that are still broken. Sipa's Snake Sigil. If you read that a certain way, that basically, if it hits, you can imprison any creature it hits for as long as the magic user wants to. And I've seen articles back and forth. And so as a DM, it's just more spells you have to figure out, but some of them are really cool. And some of the magic items are good as well. it's nice to have field plate and full plate, because now the fighters, and particularly paladins and cavaliers, who are the only ones who should be wearing them, have some other things. So there's a lot of good stuff there.
But there's also magic items that are a little overpowered. I think the Rod of Security is one of them. I mean, if you look at it and you study it, you could practically put an army in there, have a magic user teleport across Greyhawk, drop the Rod of Security, and 200 men come rolling out, and you have a battle. So I mean, there's good and bad at both sides.
Yep.
And those items should be even rarer than they are inside the DMG, inside the Unearthed Arcana. They should be even, more rare than they have. So.
Yep.
And that's up to a DM when they're rolling for treasure too. I mean, you look at it. Carlos has been in the same place I am. You're looking at it going, they rolled this. No, they're going to get this instead.
Yeah. I definitely have. I would argue. There's a few things like the Sepia Snake Sigil that you brought up. Really, though, you could read the Ghoul, their paralyzation the same way if you really wanted to. So that harkens back to Monster Manual, which was the first of the Holy Trinity written. And if you really wanted to go back to overpowered magical items, I would take 10. I would let every single player in my game have a Rod of Security before I would let there be one Rod of Beguiling in the party.
We talked about that one. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
and of course, a Rod of Beguiling is in what book?
The book that shall be named.
Exactly.
Shall be named. No, Carlos, get this. He said shall be named. So now you got to start using the name.
Right.
So, we're slowly. This is not something that you're going to get in a day. You got to get these guys to warm up to some of the rules and acknowledge that some of them are all right. And you don't change the hearts of men overnight. You change them slowly. The revolution will not be won in one day.
We used this book back in the day. It was part of it, and as players, we were super excited. As DMs, we didn't care because we were all young and we just figured it out. But it felt like a different game when this came to it. As far as if you took all of it, and I'd say the thing I would want, and I guess you could say that was second edition, if they just would have split this up, republished the DMG with this so that you wouldn't have this schism between them, that there's just one thing. But they eventually did that with 2E. And I get it. No one wants to buy additional books. But if you're buying additional book anyway, what's the difference?
Guys, like I said earlier, 2E was Lorraine Williams' way of trying to get more cash into TSR. And I bet you if Gary would have done it, I bet you he would have taken Unearthed Arcana, Articles of Dragon, and everything else, and done a re-edit of everything. And it would have been that much better. I can't see Gary going out that far.
James, I have a question for you. Do you feel like Unearthed Arcana is what changed the game? Or do you think actually we were seeing it in other places even prior to that? Because if you read the modules that are coming out prior to Unearthed Arcana and surrounding in that area, I think we were seeing a slow transition of the game to something else anyway, as the game was becoming bigger and as the rule bloat became heavier. And I think every edition tends to see this happen where the game begins to transform over time. I don't know that I would put all that solely at the feet of Unearthed Arcana. I can see where you would put it as a cultural touchstone.
That's exactly right.
As okay, this is the frame of reference that epitomizes it, but I don't know that I would say that it's completely responsible for it.
No, I agree. My version. Go ahead.
You guys want rule bloat? Let's talk rule bloat. Right here. I mean, you got the Wilderness Survival Guide and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. This is rules bloat. I mean, some of the stuff in these are really nice. I mean, you can have a really fun campaign. Dungeon Masters could really pull some shenanigans, but I mean, they just went crazy with these two books, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and that's to me is what it's exactly what Carlos said, and that's every edition, fifth edition, all of them. They get to a point. There's so much material because they got to make money, and people want this. They flesh it all out. It becomes this unwieldy thing, and then the new version comes out, they strip it down to its essence, whatever that essence they're trying to do, and it repeats. And I agree. So for me, the book that shall not be named is really more about, it's like the fall of the Berlin Wall. The fall of communism was happening for a while. You had ability checks, you had Dragonlance, you had this more heroic versus the zero to hero kind of gritty motif. That was changing over time. This was the touchstone because, to like Vic said, then the idea that the DM would make a ruling became less and less appealing. It was more about, I need to know how to jump over a cavern when I'm strapped with 2 other guys. Well, now there's a rule for it. I go see Doug Niles' book and I look it up, and Weather in the Underdark. So yes, I agree. The book itself didn't change it. It was a touchstone to that. That's well said.
How do you feel about a skill-based system being strapped onto Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in the form of something like the non-weapon proficiency that we saw come into vogue?
Yeah, I was not. It made sense. I thought it was not necessary. Just like the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. What I like, we're not reading this book. The things I liked about the Dungeoneer Survival Guide was it really made the Underdark vast. It wasn't a small dungeon. What I didn't like about it was what we used to just say is, hey, you're a fighter. Do you know how to arm wrestle? You don't need an arm wrestling skill. You rolled under your strength. You modified it based on what level of fighter you were, and you did it. Now everything became a skill, which is what we were talking about with Kelly's list of skills. And that's always been a tension, right? Only the thief could climb walls. But only thieves can climb walls if there's sheer. There's no rope. And
my monk would.
Well, yes, people have thieves' skills. I apologize. Eventually, that led itself to everyone can have a skill, and now classes didn't have these set of abilities that were unique to them. So, and that's fine. There's plenty of games that do that, but that's not D&D as we've played it. Is my thing.
Well, that falls into what Dan was saying about archetype, though, too. To some
exactly. So I think this is. Any other final comments, Dan?
Can we talk about Death's Door real quickly?
Oh yes, Death's Door.
The spell.
Yeah, because I hear a lot about it, and was that also something? Was that designed to reduce mortality rate?
I don't know that it was designed to reduce mortality rate. I think what it was designed to give the players another option. As I think a lot of times what you do is you give players levers to pull, possible opportunities. I don't know if it's designed to actually reduce a mortality rate, though, because if it did, it wasn't very effective the way the spell is written.
Yeah, because a lot of people were playing -10 is death anyway, right? And you just bind people. So what does Death's Door really do for you? I mean,
exactly.
Do you have to rest? Do you play it? Does it eliminate the requirement of rest? Because that's the big problem. Is that right? In you've got to rest for a week.
That's the biggest thing. Is it sort of what I feel like it was doing is, if you read earlier in the book, the ability the Cavaliers have to fight up to negative hit points. All right, they have that ability according to their character class. I think that this Death's Door was designed to allow other classes to be able to emulate that ability.
Mm-hmm. Everyone they got that from the giant boar, right? Isn't the giant boar can Steve? I always forget that. If you're a DM, you got to remember that, right? That boar's not dead.
Right. Well, I think to me the best low-level cleric spell that they added in there was Aid. Probably that's a great spell.
What does Aid do?
It's sort of like a hybrid bless heal spell.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty impressive spell for first level.
Well, I will go on record as I do like the idea of cantrips, because I like the less powerful stuff, and so stuff like cantrips I think seems like.
But the problem with cantrips is the way that they were done in first edition is, if you remember correctly, once you hit second level, you lose them all.
No, I don't like that at all.
Unless you waste a spell slot to keep them around. Right, exactly. So, depending on how you want to run your magic users, everybody that I play with, that when we use cantrips, they hit second level and they're like, oh, what happened to my cantrips? I thought I could cast these still. Well,
Right.
you can, but now you've got to sacrifice some slots.
And no one's going to do that.
Yeah, no one's going to do that.
I'll
No
do
one's going
that.
to do that for flavor.
Right. Well,
Or
they
spice.
should, but they won't.
I will.
You would.
I want
I'd like-
you to. I want you to.
I would like to complain. Have you noticed how few illusionist cantrips there are compared to magic user cantrips?
Yeah, but the ones that they have are really good. 2 Delusion's a great cantrip.
Is it as good as B?
It's way better than B.
Nothing.
How is that possible?
I know it's scary to think about it, but it really is. It really is.
Okay, I'll take your word.
Well, seriously, I mean, all joking aside, consider this. We've talked about before on previous GROGTALK episodes about how you have to have an illusionist-friendly DM in order to make that class work properly. Well, since it's an illusion spell, if you have an illusionist-friendly DM, 2 Delusion, you can get away with a lot of shenanigans. To get Victor's term to use his phrase. You can do a lot of stuff with that. So I think it's probably the most powerful cantrip you've got if you've got an illusion-friendly DM.
Wow, Carlos, I'm stunned that you did not lead with this argument. This is the best argument you've made in 2 hours.
Would you really say that, Dan?
Yeah, yes, you're telling me that there's a cantrip out there for my gnome illusionist thief that is like very useful.
Well, if you really want me to go any further with that argument, I will also tell you this: your gnome illusionist thief, because of Unearthed Arcana, can aspire to higher levels and can also cast a wider range of spells, most of which have no saving throws. Chromatic Orb comes to mind right away. Phantom Armor. Phantom Armor is the best first level illusionist spell there is.
Phantom Armor.
Why do
broken.
I have an image? I have an image of Darth Vader holding out his hand to me. Join the dark side. You're tempting me with the power.
Listen, man, I'm just telling you the truth. That's all there is to it.
This is terrible.
Close your ears.
You can see it, Carlos, in his mind. He's coming to the dark side, as he calls it.
He's seducing me with powerful gnome
Imagine if he
illusionists.
was a Smirfneblin gnome, too. I mean, ooh.
No, don't overplay it.
Look at that power.
Illusionist for Reveling,
Look at that power. My phone all of a sudden automatically, for some reason, the light came on all of a sudden as soon as I said that.
That's right.
The gnome. You lost me. Whatever thing I liked about this argument, I lost when you said gnome, Smirfneblin, illusionist, whatever else.
That's right. As you gain me, you lose James.
Right.
This is the conundrum you face.
I had to put my eggs in one bucket here because it's clear to me that I'm throwing pearls of the swine here with these arguments.
Illusionist, assassin, deep gnome. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. All right. Well, again, thank you to Vic and Carlos for this tongue-in-cheek discussion about the book that shall not be named. We had a good time with that.
I did too.
Really appreciate it. So again, judge for yourself. And again, it is part of the game. Just like Greyhawk Adventures is part of the game. All these books up till 2nd edition. It's part of 1st edition. You get to decide what you want part of it. Ultimately, if you don't have a fun game and a compelling story, no one cares what rules you have. And so that's what it's really about. And you've heard from these great DMs, which we'll see here at GrogCon 2020. So Vic, plug of your Kickstarter, and then where can people find that?
Blood Red Falls. It's up on Kickstarter. I'm gonna add another a funding level today. So with a little something here, I'm working on them right now. As we were speaking here, I've got I call these the Guardian of the Die. It'll fit a 20-sided die right here in your thing, so you can paint them up and do whatever you want. They'll just come in a matte gray after I get done painting them. So you can paint them whichever way. You can, like James and Dan's one I gave them at GrogCon. Carlos saw it firsthand.
That's right.
I got to get one over to Carlos, too, to put on his shelf behind him.
It was
It's
awesome.
a place of honor.
Vic, you know what? You should put up a link to your Kickstarter in the chat.
Yes, please do.
Right.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
And I got to get one of those, Carlos. One of these days, you got to get a hold of me, and I could send you one. So
that'd be
I'd like to
awesome.
see.
That'd be awesome.
I'd like to see one on the shelf back there over your. See here. Your
yeah,
other
I'll make sure I won't blur out next time too. Then when I get one.
Now,
Yeah,
now,
well, we'll figure it out, Carlos.
James, and there's a couple things I want to do before we sign
Okay.
off. The first thing is I'm going to see if the book holds up because I promised I would do this. All right, hold on. Yeah. Okay. So the binding didn't break.
Well, I actually re-glued mine, so it should be pretty good. So there you go.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no way in hell I'm doing that to either one of my two. There's no way. It would just be a paper cascade.
Oh.
But James, there is one last item I'd like to mention about Unearthed Arcana. Okay. It's very, very brief. You forgot something to mention something that you do really like about Unearthed Arcana. Okay. I know you like this about the book. So, being totally serious, social class and birth.
I do.
Oh yeah.
You forgot to mention that. That's something I know that you a particular chart that you like.
I did like that.
Doesn't that depend?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Doesn't it dictate your money and don't you, it has effects, right?
It does. It has a lot of effects.
But also, gentlemen, it adds greatly to your campaign. If you roll up and you roll like one of my characters rolled a 00, she is royalty. But she was in Greyhawk when she was found, and it's just, and I had to roll all this stuff, and it makes a character so much vaster and deeper that you could really play it out, and especially for NPCs and stuff like that you're eventually going to bring into the game and stuff. It's amazing the dynamics that can happen. You're the seventh son of royalty. You ain't getting nothing.
So what we're talking, for those who don't have the book, it's in page 82 and 83, where you figure out your social status and birth table. Now, what it makes it clear is that for player characters, initial social status has no effect on starting money and equipment with the exception of cavaliers and paladins. So you still get the same thing, but it gives you a flavor. Like Vic said, why if you came from great nobles and royalty, are you a first level druid or a thief or whatever? It gives you something to, one thing that a lot of players, especially if they consider them disposable, they don't have nothing, they don't have anything to hang their hat on, and you have an immersive world. This is an opportunity to plug them in. So it's a good table, absolutely.
I'm sorry for opening up the can of worms again, but I would be remiss if we didn't bring up that chart because I know you do like it.
Can I say, is this heresy? I don't like the cover.
It is one of my lesser favorite Easley pieces, for sure.
Yeah, it just seems a little cartoonish to me. I mean, I know a lot of people actually like it.
And there's something I would love to have seen in this, and just by looking at the cover, I would have loved to have seen more alchemy tables, something in there for creation of potions and stuff like that. That would have been great to have some of that stuff for a magic user and stuff inside that book. Sure. But going back to the charts for the birth order and stuff like that, I mean, I had a character in our campaign. He was lesser noble. His father and mother weren't married and stuff like that. There was such a dynamic there going on that it's just like, oh, we're gonna have some fun with this now. So, I mean, everybody's got their own way of running their own campaign, but I mean that is one of the charts that every dungeon master should use once their character gets past first level. You start rolling that stuff up, and then you can add more storylines and hooks to your whole campaign. And you've always got an outlet. And Carlos will agree with me that you could do stuff like that all the time. It's just like, oh, well, your sister got kidnapped or she's getting married. Now you got to go travel all the way across Greyhawk and a hex crawl or whatever.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, Vic sounds like he's on the Death Star when they're being attacked. I just hear this background sound like.
That's the 3D printer.
That's good.
Going
That's
off
good. No,
it's
no problem. It's just I was just like, wow, that's right.
Can we? I want to pray to Urtris, because Urtris is, of course, the orc deity of disease, right? And so I think at this time,
I thought it was Jubilix.
Maybe give a roll.
I thought you were doing Jubilix.
Oh no! Because Urtris is the orcish god of death and disease.
Oh yes, that's true.
And she's come out of which book, Dan? What name the book?
Oh yeah, but that was Roger Moore before in Best of
Yeah,
Dragon.
which is a dragon compilation. We're going to go over this again? We went over this already.
Yeah, this is a Best of
That's right.
Dragon. That's the way I would treat this, as a best. Well, I use the term best loosely, but whatever. It is excerpts from Dragon. But so
it's an amalgamation of a lot of things, right, Carlos?
It's an amalgamation of a lot of things that add a lot of depth to your campaign when you use them.
Right.
So
it's great tools for your toolbox as a dungeon master.
Yes.
So
exactly.
When I'm quoting, so I'm quoting from the book that Sean B. named. When plague or disease strikes a group of orcs, the clerics of Virtus appeal to him for an end to the illness with great sacrifices of prisoners and slaves. So, all right, so I'm going to give a roll to Virtus, right? Base 10% chance, I believe, right? That will be heard.
Victor, I think this is where we're getting sacrificed.
I know.
Now, that's right. I should get 2 rolls. Right, we just sacrificed Carlos. It didn't come. Now it's Vic. A 2.
A 2. That's right.
We sacrificed Vic.
Truck driving food. I had truck stops all across the country. You know, like I said on Twitter, you know, I'm immune to the coronavirus.
So Vic, can we get a big altar table for GROGTALK 3D printer? Probably about 6'5" to accommodate someone who's about 6'5" or 6'6". That would be helpful. That would be great.
Okay.
Just bring your own sacrificial altar. Next time on GROGTALK.
Yeah, okay. I'll just start printing it up now. I might have it done by then, and you'll just see it come in boxes to your house, James.
Mine only needs to be 5'7",
right.
Vic, so don't worry.
Some assembly required.
Mine will go faster.
So go ahead, Dan.
James, I know you said that people could decide for themselves, but perhaps we could roll to see who won the debate.
Well, we're going to do that in just a second. I want to let Carlos tell people how they can get to them, and then we'll do the roll. How they can find you.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about what they can do to get my
That's
products? Right. Oh, yeah. You just go to www.castlentertainment.com. We're having a sale right now. We realize that right now what James said is true. Money's tight for a lot of people. So we've got a sale going on, and I've got something very interesting that's going on, too, with our Patreon. Starting in April, we're giving everybody the chance to get on the Patreon on April for free.
There you go.
You can get all the stuff free that I do for Patreon, depending on what level you join up on, and you get a chance to see if you like it or not. You know, maybe it's not your cup of tea, but maybe you'll find out that you like it, and then when we start everything back up after things calm down a little bit more, you know, because I don't want to make it onerous on the people that have supported me and helped me achieve my dreams. My job is I don't feel it's responsible for me to put those people in the poorhouse. This is something I do for love. I love the game. I love Greyhawk, and I want to make sure that, you know, everybody has a chance to enjoy it. And, you know, I can make money on it later. We'll worry about that later. Right now, it's more important that the community has a chance to stay united and enjoy stuff.
Very good. Well, that's awesome. And so it's Castle, CASL Entertainment.com, correct?
Yep.
Yep,
that's correct.
Yep. So we'll put that in the show notes. I'm sure you'll put it in the chat. So go out there, be a patron for next month, and you can see what the value that you get, and a lot of great modules, including and material. You also have a Twitch. You do a live play on Twitch. And you do your Castle Talks. When's the next one of those?
The next one is Monday. I'm going to have the Mistress of Monsters, Sarah Dallinger, with me, who is a noted 3D artist, 2D artist, and she has worked for Monty Cook Games, for Chaosium, for a lot of different major publishers. She's recently done a book called Atlas Animalia, which a lot of you may or may not know, right over here, a hardcover book in which it's all about different monsters and their different variants. Like if you have an Arctic owlbear or things like that. She's a scientific artist as well as a professional illustrator, so she brings a lot of value. We're probably going to put on a little bit of a monster design workshop on Monday, in which we're going to build monsters together and do stuff like that with some input from the crowd. So it should be a lot of fun. And if you guys are interested, I'll give a sneak preview. April's mini module, I believe, is 14 pages long. It has some of my better mapping in it. It is an elvish adventure that deals with some pretty high level stuff. So if you guys like high level play, it'll be fun for you.
Very good. All right.
Sounds good.
So Dan, we're ready to roll, right?
Yep. Well, I was suggesting two
Yeah.
rolls. First, a roll to see who won the debate.
Right.
And then we'll do the die 10 roll for how the episode
Excellent.
was.
Okay.
So how do we want to do this?
Well,
Do we want to have, how about both of us, how about each team member roll a die 10 and we add up together the two die 10s
okay.
for the
Well,
team?
Jordan,
All right, that sounds
the production
fair.
hobgoblin
Everyone gets to
is
roll.
watching my roll here.
We get plus how many? James,
What did
do
I
we get
roll?
Plus how many?
9.
I rolled a 9. There you go.
I rolled a 10.
See?
Are you being serious?
I'm being
Carlos,
serious.
you gotta do something good. I rolled an 8.
Oh, he's got, Carlos, if he gets a 10.
I rolled a 9.
Oh!
19 and 18.
I rolled a 9.
Oh, you rolled a 10? They rolled 10
Where
and
did
9?
you go?
There you go.
I
Yeah.
rolled an 8.
Is it at 19 and 19?
No, it's 19.
Yeah, it's 19.
Well, he rolled a 9.
It's
Yep.
19.
No, we rolled a 19. They rolled a 17.
We rolled
Yeah.
7. I rolled an 8.
Oh, I thought you said you rolled a 10. Oh, okay.
No, I rolled an 8. I said you have to roll a 10.
Oh,
I said,
Carlos,
no,
that's what I
rolled a 9.
thought
It's
too.
like you had a 10.
I thought that same thing I thought.
Well,
Carlos.
it's so close, and I think that was a good thing. Now let's roll how well the show did. Hopefully we won't get a crap. Who wants to roll for that?
I'll do that one too. I got my 10.
That's right. There you go.
Are you
Yep.
ready?
Yeah.
We have a
10. That's what matters. That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
right. Everyone's a winner.
Everyone gets a prize. No.
There's no
This
losers.
is like Oprah. It's awesome. How
Yeah.
come this dice has never done this for me ever before at a game?
Well, that's not Amanda's dice, is it?
Oh God, no! Holy.
Those are good.
Yeah, that's been banned.
Well,
That's bad.
but you know
Oh,
those
it's sort of
dice.
like the fans from a Genie's days. It's just, she rolls one. It's just like,
No,
how
Amanda's
do
dice.
you do this?
They're sentient though, because I borrowed it, but if you roll it too many times, it starts turning on you. It's like the ring. You know, don't
Don't
push
abuse it.
Oh, it
Just
is. It's
Don't
true.
abuse it. Yeah.
It's true. You can't abuse the power.
All right. So again, for Grog Talk, again, thank you, Vic. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our listeners. We had a great
Oh,
time.
hey, you know what? We didn't do a hex crawl. Carlos, you got that to do
next time. Yes, next time.
Yeah.
I'm
All
ready
right,
to
let's
go
get-
next time.
All right, let's get started. I'm ready.
No,
I'm ready to. Let's do this.
no, it's 4.
It's only noon.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. They're in the stone.
7 hours later. No, that's
I'm ready for action. Come on, man. I've kept you guys to about an hour every time.
hour every time. My bladder seeks another adventure somewhere else at this point.
I haven't been away. I haven't slept since 4. I woke up at like 4:30 yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm yeah. I could probably go
punchy.
to sleep anytime now.
Well, for next week, hopefully we'll have Jim Ward. I got to send him a note. Hopefully he'll still be on. We're gonna have then Carlos. If you're available next week, we'll do the hex crawl. So that'll be great. We'll keep up with.
Wouldn't miss
We'll keep up with that. Vic, we'll see you soon. Dan. So for I'm James. Who are
Dan.
you, Vic? Go ahead, Vic.
Rick.
Carlos.
I'm Carlos.
And thanks for seeing us on Grog Talk. We'll see you next time. Take care.